There we are. We are live. I am here with one of golf's renaissance men, Michael Michaelides. So you got a lot going on, and we got a lot to talk about. In fact, we just in the pre-show, everybody. Unfortunately, we didn't record it, but that could have been a great show unto itself. So, Michael, it's great to have you on, man. You got a lot of shit going on and a lot of cool stuff. I'm very, very happy to have you on.
Dude, I love coming on. I'm happy to be on. Obviously, anytime, you want to just, talk golf or shoot the shit or whatever, man. I'm always up for it, man. I love stuff like this.
When Nick came on a couple months ago, same thing. In fact, we probably talked for longer. And when we got started, he said, "Hey, I got to warn you. If I get off track, don't be afraid to tell me we got to get back on track." And
Yeah,
then we went for probably 50 minutes before we hit record, and then we did it over 2 hour podcast. And
nice.
finally, he goes, "Hey, man, I got to go." I'm like, "No problem. It's been great." But it's no surprise that you guys are partners along with Chris Como. And I don't know, Jeff Smith's a part of the open forum.
Yeah, so the open forum kind of started. So I'll give you like a little back kind of, right? So I'm 47 now, right? So this was like 13 years ago, maybe a little more, right? So, because the first one was 13 years ago, okay? And even a couple years before that, I was kind of, obviously a younger pro, and I was in the forums on Facebook, like golf teaching professionals, golf biomechanists. There was like four of them that Nick had, right? So he goes, "Can you help me moderate the forums?" Right? He goes, "Because I need somebody with credibility that's a golf pro that knows his stuff, but that can kind of drop the hammer when needed." Right? And I'm like, okay, because Nick, he's a CPA and he's a golf nut and he's awesome and he knows his stuff,
Yeah, he's
but
very,
because
educated on it.
right, but because he's not a golf pro, some golf pros would kind of give him crap about it, right? So I was like, dude, I got you, right? So we got the forums to a decent amount, and if you've never seen me like in person or whatever, like I'm a pretty big dude. Like I'm like almost 6'5", 280. Like I look like a like a linebacker, like a tight end. You know what I mean? So I would comment on some of these threads in the forums, right? And then it would just spark off another like 60 comments, and it would generally be really contentious a lot of times, right? Or even downright rude to a point. And so one day I'm sitting there and I said, if I'm standing in front of you and we're having this conversation, like you're probably not gonna say what you're saying the same way. Like you're gonna bite you're gonna watch your tone, right? So I said, "Nick, you got a minute?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "What do you think about this concept?" And I said, "Maybe we do a live forum." She goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I don't know really what I mean." I said, because I don't really even know how to describe it. I said, maybe we just, get like, 30 or 40 of us kind of that are real active in the forum, get us together. We all disagree about shit. And then maybe just get together. We just hash it out, right? We can meet at a restaurant or a bar or whatever and just kind of, I don't know, like, because a 200 comment thread can be kind of toned down to like 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you do it right. And originally, we were looking at literally like restaurants. Like, we were looking at, like because we didn't think it was going to be what it was, right? So we found a grill room at a golf course, and we were like, okay, that's cool. They're like, we could accommodate like, 60 people or whatever. I was like, oh, okay, great. The first year we had 100 and like or something like that. Like they were like literally like there's no more chairs in the building. Like we don't have any room. Like, and it was wild because you had people around the bar drinking, you had waitresses carrying food to people that were sitting down. Chris, myself, and Nick were running around with handheld mics, running around the room trying to like when somebody would raise their hand and we're, like it was fucking chaos, right? And the big
Beautiful
exchange,
chaos.
yeah, it was chaos. Like it was, now like I said, like, like I almost, Nick has the video. I think he shared the video where I literally almost lost my right eye, like in that room. So Lynn Blake had just like Brian Gay had just left Lynn Blake as a teacher to go to like Joe Mayo. Joe Mayo was there. And Joe's like, 3 or 4 or 5 Mick Ultras in or whatever the fuck he was drinking, or Bud Light or whatever. And Lynn Blake said something, and Trackman had just burst on the scene, And Lynn Blake said something, and all of a sudden, man, I just hear from the other side of the room. He didn't even he need the microphone. He's like, Mr. Blake, Mr. Blake. And I was like, here we go. Right. It was like, and it was like crazy. Then somebody had asked Lynn about a drill and the net return. We have it on stage, right? We use it for the live lesson portion. And the net return, actually, we had that at the golf course. Like they were like, those guys were just starting out. And the grill room in the golf course, they were like, yeah, you could bring a net return in here and hit balls if you want. And we're like, really? Like the golf course was like, it was like the Wild West. Like they were like,
Nice.
whatever, bro. Like we don't give a shit, right? And I'm holding the microphone, and this is like pre-beard, right? And I'm holding the microphone, and Lynn goes like this, and literally almost like, you see my head like jerk back. I mean, he was like that close to hitting me in the eye. And like the whole room was like, holy shit, and Lynn's like, what? He didn't even know. Like, even real, like, what happened? And it was funny, man. It was like, but that kind of cemented our, I guess like the reputation of like the back and forth and stuff like that. The second year was kind of like that too. We had a mini stage. And when I say mini, I mean like real mini. And again, because it was at a golf course, like it was so weird, like we're like we're in another like grill room, and we had like a mini stage. We had over 200 like 30 or 40 people. Like I was like, dude, this is like, if like the first year, if we would have gotten 30 people, we were gonna be happy, right? And I remember when we were putting it together, Nick goes, I think we need to bring somebody else on. And I said, okay. So like, who'd you have in mind? And he goes, well, is it really, a young teacher, great dude, Chris Como. I said, okay, like I'm in. I said, I was like, I don't know Chris personally at the time. I said, but I mean, I've seen his stuff. I like his, I'm like, yeah, I'm in. Like, bring him in, if you think it'll be good. So it actually kind of worked really well. And it's kind of worked where now we have our somewhat defined roles. Like I've always been kind of the MC, and I'm running around like a chicken without a head kind of through the night. And, I always say it's like herding cats at times, trying to make sure the guests are where they should be, trying to make sure I cut off, like, I don't want to cut off people, but like, it's like I try to keep it on time somewhat. Nick obviously is as a CPA and is like, the handles like the sponsors and stuff, which is fine. I don't want to do that. And Chris, kind of does help me with the moderating sometimes, and obviously helps me with the guests and stuff like that. Because, in the golf world, like between Chris and I, we'll really be hard pressed to not be able to get somebody as a guest that we want to get. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually has worked out really well, and I think still to this day, I'm still the hammer. I mean, like, you were there, like, I got to tell people to shut the fuck up or whatever. I got to be like,
That was great. It's like you get up on stage and just yell at it.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, shut the fuck up.
Like,
Oh, this is
I mean,
awesome.
like there's like over unders, there's like over unders on like how many F bombs I'm going to drop, whenever we have David Orr and he's going to give a speech, there's usually an over under sheet on who's going to drop more F bombs, me or David Orr. So it's definitely interesting. Like, and it's weird that, like I have to do that. Like, I think the first couple of years, like I kind of had to do that. Like when we moved into like the bigger space, like Rosen or Hyatt or wherever we do it, because we had so many people. Like we've had, like from year 3 until now, we've had like, I want to say close to like 400 people or more every year, right? Like it's not even, so I kind of had to say that. Now it's funny because at first I think I had to say it out of necessity. And now I just kind of think some people do it just so I'll say it because they're, like, because even like when I say it, like there's, guys in there that are cheering, like when I say it, like it's almost like they're expecting it,
They're
So,
waiting for it.
yeah, it's such a weird, like I'm sitting there and I'm watching like Tom Resendez. He's like, and I'm like, I get up there and he's like, come on, like, you want to say it, like, come on, God, so it's so weird, but it's a fun night.
What was the year that Manzella jumped up on stage?
Uh, that was, I think it was last year or it was either last year or
Didn't he jump on in one of the earlier like 3 or 4? Because I wasn't there.
he did.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was weird actually. So at Mans, he jumped on stage like 3 or 4, and he's always been that guy like in the crowd asking these questions, these thought provoking questions and everything else, which is awesome, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I love when Brian gets up. Like, I don't really have an issue with it. I know some people kind of roll their eyes or do this, but like,
He should. It's good questions, and if someone's going to be on there, it's not to tear them down. It's like let's incite some discussion in this forum.
right. And he's
Various
just right. And he's just smart, right? And he's
yes,
just a smart dude.
very good at
So
what
it's
he
like,
does.
okay. So yeah, like the early days, like the third or fourth one, he was on stage. And then it got into like this weird place where I didn't, like he didn't come for a few years because of this whole like alpha war kind of thing or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, which I was like, why? Like come. Like, you know what I mean? Like if Sasha is gonna be on stage who you disagree with, then like come, be there. Like, call him out or whatever. And then we didn't see him there for a little while. And, we gave him a blank check essentially too. Like we were like, anytime you want to present, like legitimately, like anytime you want to present your findings or anytime you want to present your study or anytime you want to present what you're doing that contradicts this,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have an open invitation. Like you don't need, like all you have to do is say the word, right? And he's never taken advantage of that yet, which is fine. But then, like after COVID, after the 2 years hiatus, we were wondering if it was going to be relevant again, and we were like, do you think people still want to kind of come to open forum because we had built that kind of track record of like Tuesday night, Tuesday afternoon, evening of demo day is like our day. So and people wanted it, like which was crazy. And last year we had Joe Mayo come down and he was talking about his short game stuff and everything else. And Brian was there and him and Brian were going back and forth and it
Mm-hmm.
was awesome. Like it was great. But we've had some pretty cool guests. Like I mean, we had Brandel on. People wanted Brandel for so long. They were like, "You got to get Brandel on. You got to get Brandel on." Like I want to tell him he's an asshole. Like I'm like, okay, fine. It was so funny because we put Brandel on stage. We like on a panel. Like we presented Brandel. Like here you go. Right. This is what you wanted. We had like over 600, almost 700 people that year. Right. It was crazy. And we were like, this is what you wanted. And then like people cowered asking questions. And then afterwards they were like, well, nobody hit them with hard questions. And we're like, well, we gave you the chance. Like we presented,
We teed it up for you. All you had to do
yeah,
was hit it.
like, because in the history of the open forum, like the whole point is we're not the ones asking the questions. Like what we do is we kind of go, okay, what do you want to see? Who do you want to hear from? And then we put them on stage if we can, right? And then it's like, okay, now it's your turn. Like it's interactive. Like where the PGA Teaching and Coaching Summit is very one sided, it's not very interactive. Like it's very much here's the presentation and that's it. We don't do that. Like we want the interaction from the crowd. We want the back and forth. I mean, we've had people from the crowd at times literally come up on stage to demonstrate something in direct contradiction to, whatever somebody is saying. And we're like, yeah, that's what we want. Like you, even if you're not a speaker, like you could come up and talk about it. Like we don't
Mm-hmm.
care. So we try to give the golf pro, especially the average golf pro that maybe is not the one doing the presentations, is not the one being asked to speak, is not the one, but that has these questions or has these concerns or has these whatever. And we try to give them that platform to say, look, we're giving you the chance to now hear, ask what you got to ask, whether it's something doesn't make sense to you or whether you just need clarification or whether you completely disagree with what someone's saying. And, I would love, I mean, not that I don't think really it's as relevant anymore, but I mean, I still would have loved to have gotten like, Sasha and like Dr. Kwan and whatever on like one side, and then have
Mm-hmm.
like Brian and Mike and like, Nesbitt on the other side to discuss the differences and everything. Like, I think that would have been, and I still think it would be cool if we could do it, but unfortunately, I don't really, necessarily see that happening. But I think that would be really cool, and I love seeing that. I love seeing the back and forth, I really do. That to me is the, of it.
Yeah, that'd be like a John Jones, George St. Pierre fight.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
really good information group, both of them, that know a lot more about the swing and the biomechanics than 99% of the people in there, but they differ on their interpretation of the
yeah.
information.
And I'd give them the time. Like I'd give them like, if they wanted to do it, like I'd give them like, like an hour and a half, like a couple hours, like, um, you know, I think the biggest challenge when it comes to speakers or keeping it on time and stuff like that, and I don't think speakers realize this, maybe, I'm not sure, because some do, but like if we're going to give you like, and it's not us, but like if anybody's giving you like, let's say somebody's giving you 25 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
okay? If you can do your presentation, do it in 20, right? Like have your material for 20 and then have 5 minutes for questions and answers,
Yes.
right? Don't do it like 25 and then go, can we then take some questions, because then it immediately puts us behind, which is really, and I don't enjoy cutting people off especially if they have a good segment and people want to have questions. I hate cutting people off, right? I think, but certain speakers like McLean, like we had McLean this year,
Mm-hmm.
I think he did a phenomenal job, and I will say this. So I got a lot out of Jim's presentation because, he was discussing the X Factor, and it's interesting how it got cut to two axes when his original thought and data for the X Factor was four axes. And Golf Digest or Golf Magazine, whoever had cut it off into two, I hate to say it, but really did a disservice to him, because like I remember reading the X Factor and I was like, yeah, that's not really fully correct. Like that's not really 100. Like I was like, I don't know, like this just seemed, and golfers that really tried to implement it, it seemed like in ways where instead of getting maybe more mobility and more flexibility, tried to restrict movement. It led to a lot of injuries in the golf swing. But when he presented it the way he presented it and showed the original stuff, it made so much more sense. Like I was like, shit, that now I know where he was going with it. And I was like, man, I wish it would have been presented like that 25 years ago or whatever it was. Because I just, and he's a great teacher. I mean, he is. And he's a good player too. He's a really good player.
Hey, he played at Houston, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I mean, he was, he was a really good player and he's a great teacher. And I think cutting that down really did a disservice. Like I really wish maybe that came out sooner. And it was really cool to have him on there to do it, to show it. Like that was actually really cool. So I think he did a great job. And there's a bunch of speakers that do a great job. Again, like guys like James Lights and Scott Fawcett does a great job. Like they always kind of run on time and they
Mm-hmm.
understand. Some speakers, like I said, what happens is maybe if you're not always used to being able or being given time to speak, you don't like kind of put that in the back of your mind, maybe leaving room for questions and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But
Have you guys
overall,
thought of doing it like taking the TED Talk model and having the countdown clock and having, okay, you got 15 minutes for your presentation, and then different from TED, you would have a Q&A of 5 or 10 minutes after that. Okay,
right.
so there's 25 minutes total, but you have the clock running so people know, okay, we got 3 more minutes of this and then we got to move on.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
we could. I mean, that's not a bad idea. I mean, again, we haven't. I know that when we were talking about it, or talking about in terms of like production of it and stuff like that, I think that's going to be a good. Uh, I think that's going to be a good like suggestion to maybe try to incorporate that if we can, because I think that does add to the production value of it. And just like we were talking in the pre-meeting, like where we have it makes a difference because, like when we have it at Rosen and we have our stage and we have the two screens and everything else, they allow us to kind of really dim the house lights down all the
mm-hmm.
way to like, 10% or 15%, but then have the stage lights on and it makes this backdrop and it's awesome. And then at Hyatt this year, they didn't have that, at least not in that room. And it was, like, you're wondering how much like lighting could possibly be and stuff like that. And we're trying to bring it in and everything else. And we were looking at it. And just to bring in like lighting for the stage and stuff, I mean, the companies wanted like $7,000, $8,000. I mean, I was like, what? I'm like, that is crazy. Like that I was like, that's just, it just wasn't worth it, because that money, because that's the other thing too, I think for us, like, which doesn't get talked about enough. So like the PGA TJ coaching summit, they charge like $700.
Hmm.
Okay. Now they do it every other year, and I get that, right? And the production of it looks great. Like when you see the pictures and everything, it is like, you're like, damn. Um, we only charge $125. Like we
Yeah,
don't.
it's the best value at the PGA show in coaching. I mean, the best. Where are you going to for 6 hours? You're going to listen to
Right.
this caliber of information.
Right. And if you're a head pro, right? If you're a head pro, it gives you the chance to be a little magnanimous, right? Because, like, you can have a couple of assistants be like, look, I'm going to cover my assistants.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it literally does. It gives you such a, it gives you such a good avenue to kind of be that guy if you wanted to be that guy, or girl or whatever, and just say, hey, I'm going to cover my assistants here, or I'm going to do this, right? And it does, man. It's we really work hard to try to provide that experience where we're not trying to break the bank. Like show week, show week's expensive enough, man. I mean, it's like $12 for fucking coffee.
No
Like,
kidding.
like I mean, like like you're sitting there like I got a I don't know, modified burrito, I guess. I don't even know what it was. Like, I don't know if you can call it that, right? It was like a cross. It was like a cross between like a burrito and a gyro, like a gyro, because like it was like cone shaped, like I don't know, right? And that was like $20. Like I was like, really? Like,
Yeah, it's
like I could eat five of those. You know what I mean?
easy. You're right.
It's
I had
it's
the gyro
crazy.
sandwich. I told Lady, I said, "Hey, there's supposed to be meat in this thing. Like you put two
Right.
pieces of shaved meat. I'm like, hey, come on. I'm not ordering a double. I just want if you're going to charge me $15 or $18 or whatever it was, how about putting a
Right.
few pieces of meat in there?"
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like that's where it's tough. I mean, luckily this year for the most part, I was kind of it's kind of like intermittent fasting anyway. So like, like I really didn't, I was just kind of carrying around my water jug and that's about it. So like, I was able to get away with it. But like in years past, like, I mean, yeah, like a hot dog's $12 and like this. And I'm like, bro, like, like, damn.
Hmm.
So the fact that like we keep it at like $125 is like,
It's
you
a
know,
steal. And
right,
I've got some buddies who are, they're avid golf, like most golfers. They get fanatical, and we all have it. And they asked me about coming down, and I said, "Yeah, you got to go." I said, it's the best deal in golf because they see the Sashos and the Manzellas and the
yep,
Comos on TV and all this. So for them, these are like celebrities. And I said, "Yeah, I was talking to Manzella, sitting there with he and Chris at the end. We're talking. They're like, 'Holy shit, you guys
right,
are talking about?'" I told them, I said, "Next year." Because they got to work, they can't take a whole week off. One's a teacher and the other one's in medical. And I said, let's get a house. We'll go to demo day Tuesday, go to open forum that night, and then you guys figure out how long you want to stay. Because
yeah,
I'm gonna stay more. I keep coming down, rushing down there from Hilton Head. It's about 5 hours, so I rush down there Tuesday morning, run out to Orange National, do demo, and then rush back, clean up, get to the forum by 4:45 so I can see the beginning, and then I go to the show all day Wednesday, and I'm out. I'm like, wait a minute, why am I cramming this in? Let me
yeah,
spread this out and quit being a dumbass and trying to think you're 20 years old and can do everything in 2 days. So now, and I told him, I said, look, you guys want to come down? I'm going to be down there for 4 days, maybe 4.5. We'll
right,
get a house. We'll just stay. We'll take our time, enjoy it. And I'd say you'll be blown away. I mean,
yeah.
it'll be like a kid in a candy shop. If you like golf and you go to coaches forum and you go to, or open forum and you go to the show, you're going to be like, holy shit, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, my dad just started coming down, because he retired. So he started coming down like the last like 3 years or whatever. And he's been there before. Like he was there in 2020 was his first one, and then took a couple years off, and then the next three or whatever. But and he was like, and he loves it, right now. And it's funny because like he just sits down. He never says anything. Like he just kind of sits down. He gets his seat in the crowd, and he's just kind of listening intently and everything else. And it's like hilarious. Like nobody, and he's always like, man, he goes like, I learned so much because it's crazy, and he goes, I know, like, yeah, some of it's over my head, like, okay, he's like, but I get it, and I'm like, yeah, I was like, it's fun, and he goes to the show and walks around, and he loves it, and he's like, and mind you, he goes, his thing is like, so he goes up for demo day, goes for open forum, and he's there Wednesday till like maybe like 3, and then like he's gone, right?
Hmm.
And I go, you can stay longer if you want, like I don't really care. I mean, then, and he's like, no, that's good. Like cause he's like, I'm not going to see, cause it's not his job. Right. So he's like, he goes, I kind of see what I want to see. And, and that's it. And he did, he saw his thing, whatever. He had his like stops he wanted to make, walked around with me for like a little bit, cause like, he can't, that's his running joke. He's like, I can't walk around with you during the show. He goes, cause like you're getting stopped every, like 10
Yeah,
steps.
you're
Whatever.
working.
Yeah.
You're,
He's
doing your
like,
job.
you're just getting stopped. He goes, even if like, again, I'm not like the smallest guy, right? So like I'm pretty easy to kind of see. And, when you're walking around, like people just come up and they'll grab me from behind or whatever, or they'll talk to me or whatever. I was able to like talk to even like I met up like with a couple of influencers while I was down there. And it was hilarious because they're like, "Oh, we're gonna run over here, like wherever it was, like we're gonna go to Power Build or something like that, check out the clubs." And I was like, "Okay, cool." I was like, and I was done, like my meetings and stuff were done. I was like, "Yeah, I'll walk with you, whatever." And as we're walking, like and mind you, like they have like a cameraman with them, right? So like, and this is what they do: they do digital content and stuff like that. So you would think like people like if anybody like we're stopping them, right? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like we're walking to Power Build, like. And one guy grabs me, hey, blah, blah, blah. I take another, like, we get past one booth. Another guy stops, another person stops, another, like, she's like, and they're like, what the hell, And I'm like, like you should have a cameraman with you. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't do that. Like, I'm more like the behind the scenes, kind of stuff, like, which is also like a somewhat double edged sword because obviously for what I do, whether it's golf, whether it's wellness, whether it's all that stuff, like I kind of have to create content and I hate it. So, and I'm pretty shit at it. Like, I mean, some people are like, yeah, like I love your content. And I'm like, do you? Cause like, I feel like I'm horrible at it. Like when I make a video or I do something, like I always feel like it's like here I'm very comfortable and I'm fine. But like I feel like when I have to make a video or I have to do something, like I feel like I'm very like I'm awkward, which is weird. You know what I mean? It's weird feelings. I don't have that feeling in the golf space. I don't have that feeling like when I'm talking to people, and I don't have that feeling. But for some reason, like when it's like making video
Yeah,
content,
well,
I'm like,
it's like stage fright. I mean, it's a real thing in the acting community that you can practice all you want to, but until you and I compare because I have some friends who were in stage. They were on Broadway.
right,
A real good buddy of mine's daughter was on Broadway for years, and I've talked to them about this. And we would compare the first tee jitters. At every whether you're assistant pro or you're in the PGA or you're a touring pro, no, everyone remembers their first event and how nervous they were. That first tee shot, scares the shit out of you, and you just have to learn to develop the thick skin to get past that. And I relate that to getting in front of a camera. Whether you're going to film content, you're going to do
yeah,
a YouTube page or whatever you're going to do, you just have to develop the wherewithal to get through it and keep your eye on the goal that you're trying to achieve. And eventually it becomes like calloused, it becomes very rough and it just bounces off you. But it does take a while to develop that.
yeah. I mean, it's weird to me because like like I you know I think it's always like I'm always like it's so weird for me like where to look or it's like you're suddenly conscious, right? Because like the phone's on a stand,
Hmm.
right, or something, right, or you're propping it up against something, or like yesterday I did a video, and I'm holding the phone, and like so you're trying to hold the phone, and then you're trying to do stuff with your hand, and then you're trying like you make sure you have stuff ready, and it's just weird and but people are like, yeah, like I love the content. I love like like the stuff you put out. And I'm like, okay, like thanks, I guess. Like I'm hoping to continue to get better at it, I guess. But but like stuff like ironically, when it's like stuff like the forum, like being on stage and getting up there in front of 3, 4, 500 people, like I have no problem with that. When it comes to being on the lesson tee or whatever. I mean, honestly, the most nervous I ever was when I did the big break. That was so I man doing the big break. I don't know what I expected, and I think my expectations are what kind of killed or what got my the nerves. So if you ever watch a show, like I guess I just thought it was like like one guy, like with a player and like the camera guy, and that's it, right?
Hmm.
And so like first tee jitters, none of that stuff really bothers me too much. You kind of get past that. You got your little tricks and stuff like that or whatever. And then So like I'll never forget it though. So we're walking out and the producers are like, okay, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna walk out and this is this. And I'm like, okay. And because they kind of shoot it in somewhat reverse order, I think to get you at least the first day. Like the subsequent days you're kind of doing the intros first and what this is and what that is, right? And then but like the first day, they're like, okay, we're gonna do the first challenge. Then we'll do the intro. It's like, okay. And they really do that on purpose to get you in a really like fight or flight kind of thing. So like I remember walking around the corner and yeah, it wasn't what I expected. There was like, two freaking like, boom cameras on a crane. There were cameras by the green. There were guys, there's guys following you walking around. I'm like, holy shit. Like all of a sudden there's like 200 people, right? And you are very cognizant of the fact that all these people, all 200 people, are just focused on you and nobody else, right? And the other part of it is in the big break, like if I had a bad shot in a tournament, like so what? Like I can go in and recover. Like I can, if I hit it if I hit it like in a spot where I shouldn't be, okay, like I could just get up and down or try to recover or try to get it short of the green and pitch it on or do whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like in a big break, you can't do that. Like every shot matters. So like if you don't put it in the circle, well then you're disqualified. You're done. Like
Yeah,
okay,
it's
like
like
thanks.
it's like the final shot of a tournament where you're tied for the leader. You're trying to catch the leader, and you're on 18.
Yeah,
Like you've
and
got
it's
one shot to do it.
right, and it's so like I remember my first tee shot for the big break. I had changed my strategy because like I was originally going to hit like an iron or like a 3-wood, right? I was like, okay, and there's a par four, and I was on Big Break 10 Michigan, so it was partners. So I was, you picked who hit the tee shot, and then you picked the other person who was going to try to hit it on the green to get the points, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I, if you hit the fairway, you get points. You hit the green, you get points, right? So as a long drive, like I didn't want to run out of fairway, right? So I was like, initially, I was like, okay, I was going to hit iron, but I didn't. Thank God I didn't. I hit hybrid. I made like the last minute change to like try and hit hybrid, and thankfully I did because I almost missed the ball. But the shot came off like perfect. Like it was like this, like lowish riser that was coming up and ended up in the fairway, and I was like literally like I almost missed the ball. If that was an iron, it would have been an ugly, really ugly freaking iron. Like I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever been that nervous. But yeah, like doing the content creation stuff, I think the other thing I also worry about too is like not so much in my house, but and maybe just because of my age is like when you're out and about and like if you see somebody doing content creation, right, and they're just like out in the wild, right, and there's just like a phone stand and they're doing some like weird kind of stuff, like I don't know, man, that's like I look at that and I understand what they're doing, but I'm like, that just looks idiotic,
Yes.
right? And I can't get that out of my head. I'm like, I'm gonna be that guy. Like I'm gonna be the freaking like I'm gonna put the stand up and I'm gonna be out in the wild doing something. And it's just gonna look. It may look good on camera, but it's gonna look like moronic from like every other spot. And I'm like, I don't know, man. So it's weird. It's definitely yeah, I don't know.
When I started a YouTube channel, I had no clue what I was doing. And I mean, I got like 3,400 on my coaching page, and the podcast is blended in. Like I said, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I just do what I feel like
Just
doing
do
and
what you
put it out
right.
there. Yeah. Now I'm trying to make a separate page just for the podcast, and not
Gotcha.
just so people can, if they want to go to one, fine. They don't. They want to go to the other. That's cool too. But the a buddy of mine, he was getting into video stuff. Because I called him. He worked at Best Buy. I said, when it does video, because I don't know how to video myself. He said, well, I'm getting into it. So we go out there the first day, and I think I talked for like 45, 50 minutes in the first video. And this was when YouTube still was like 3-minute videos. And I'm like,
Right.
there's no way I'm ever going to be able to do this. And so
Right.
we just kept at it, and I'm still not good at it. But I'd like to think I got better. And people are like, well, why do you have your earliest videos where you're terrible on there? I was like, so I can remind myself that when I get ready to say screw it and throw in a towel, I can look back to those early ones and say, okay, I've gotten this far. I'm going to
Right.
keep going, because if I throw it in, I'm never going to get any better.
Right. I mean, I think you do a good job. I mean, I don't. Again, I don't. I mean, like I said, it's weird, you know. It's like it's I guess it's just being in that age range, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
where you know it's like still you know growing up without any of this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know being savvy enough that like you know it's not like you know I have to be like, oh, I need help with this app, like I know how to you know what I mean, like you know how to like figure shit out. But it's like when you take it to that next level is when it gets a little, you know, it gets a little strange at times. You know what I mean? At least, and I mean to be honest, look, you know, I think everybody's kind of their own worst critic to a
Exactly.
large, you know, to a large degree, right? I think if you're successful, I think if you're someone that's successful, and I think if you're someone that, um, you know, because generally if you're successful, no matter whatever it is that you do, you have these high standards, right? You're always extremely critical of you know, of your kind of performance, right? And you hear it even like with actors, right? Some of them, but like, yeah, like I don't watch my movies. Like, you know, like I watched it at the premiere and I don't want, you know, like I haven't seen that movie in 20 years, you know, because like I don't want to watch myself. Like I don't want to watch myself on film, right? Which is crazy, you know, so I get it. Like I do. You know, you know, it's just something you got to kind of fight through or whatever. But, you
Yeah,
know,
the hard thing is to real, and it's a harsh realization that it's kind of a little bit of a slap that you got to give yourself. Is like, well, no one really gives a shit. You know,
yeah,
we're making this content, and it's like, oh, you know, all these people are going to watch and they're going to nitpick. It's like, no, they don't care.
yeah, they don't like, and that's, you know, it's interesting because like we talked in the pre-show, like, you know, the running joke with Chris and I, Como, is like when we go to the forum, is you know we get set and you know it's like we'll do like whatever you want to call it, a sound check or whatever it is, and we're there before anybody else is there. We're in this empty room, right? And there's just you know however many chairs and the stage, right? And I always look over at Chris and I go, you know, I go, it absolutely blows my mind that anybody gives a shit what we do. Like I still to this day, like it's crazy to me, right? That anybody cares, right? And you're not wrong. Like that's the thing. Like, you know, and yeah, like nobody's gonna nitpick you. Like nobody cares that much, right? You know what I mean? Like they don't, you know, it's interesting how your mind plays into those things. You know what I mean? Whenever something is outside your comfort zone, right? Because like when I'm like if I'm in the ropes, okay, like if I'm in the ropes or I'm playing, right? Like I never worry if anybody's looking at me nitpicking like my pre-shot routine or shot or swing or whatever. You know what I
Yeah, you're
mean?
focused on what you're trying to achieve or attain.
Yeah.
That other shit's minutia. So
Yeah.
you
It doesn't even
learn how
like
to
it
do
doesn't
that.
even enter in, you know. And but meanwhile, you know, this little, you know, 6 inch, you know, screen or whatever, you know, it's like, what the hell?
Well, I tell you the other thing, and I think one thing that you and talking to Nick and having him on and Como, and I'm not putting myself in Como's coaching class. So people out there might think that when I say this, just stop right there. But I think that when you're involved in a lot of different things, that your mind you find interest in many different activities. You know, you got long drive, you coaching, open forum, your water business, entrepreneur stuff. You know, Chris has the golf pass. He's got his tour stable. He's got it where he's teaching it in Dallas. You know, at the private club. Nick's got accounting, and he does the open forum. You guys have the business and his other things. But I think when you're a person like that and your mind is working and you enjoy doing different things, so you don't pigeonhole yourself, but you've got to do the things that make you uncomfortable for no other reason. I call it mental autophagy. You got to
Yep.
get shit out of your head that's bouncing around in there for weeks or months or years that you have an idea on something. At least give yourself the chance to try it. That if it crashes and burns, it's out of your head and something else will develop another idea.
It's interesting that you say that. So, you know, oh man, I just shit. You know, the like, you know, you mentioned the water business and like stuff like that, and like, you know, even in wellness, like I mean, that's kind of been my newest venture or whatever. And it really started because my own body was breaking down, right? I mean, through long drive and golf and you know, being a golf pro for 25 years and I mean, putting, you know, doing long drive for 15 years and also just the travel. Like, it's not even so much, like people don't realize, like, like when you're bouncing around like mini tours, like, you're sleeping in your car and you're kind of doing crap and whatever, and long drive and all this stuff, like the travel, dude, it crushes
Brutal.
you, right?
Brutal.
So when my body started breaking down, I started really looking into different stuff on how to heal and wellness stuff and everything else. One of the things that I came across, man, I gotta do a video on it soon. There's a part of your brain, right? There's a part of your brain, and I literally, it was like 2 days ago where I came across this. It's the anterior, I forget the scientific name of it. It's like right back here. When you do a task, okay, or when you do something that you don't want to do, okay, it doesn't matter what it is. When you do something that you do not want to do, okay, you're triggering that part of your brain, but it's also getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now,
I think when David Goggins was on Huberman Lab, they talked about it. You got to
yeah,
develop it, but and if you don't, it's going to shrink like a muscle would. It's
yes,
atrophy. Yeah.
exactly. And then what happens is they found that in people, when it grows, right, and the bigger it is, the better it is for your longevity, your life, your
Mm-hmm.
cognitive, all that stuff, right? And it was interesting, and I was like, huh, and I guess what I find interesting about it is because athletes, really, especially athletes, right? I mean, learn this at a young age. Like, you just do what you don't want to do. It doesn't matter, right? Like, like you don't want to do it. So what? Like, do it, embrace the suck and do it. Like,
Yes.
and Goggins is amazing with that. Like, Goggins, I mean, he's not even human. Like, I don't even feel like he's human. Like, I mean, the guy, like the story of him having to do his run when he was
Where
like
he, where
280
he's pissing
pounds.
Coca Cola.
Yeah, where
That's amazing.
where like he was running on two broken feet, and he duct taped his feet so he wouldn't feel his feet, right? He was pissing blood, he was doing all this stuff and he didn't care. And he's, like, this is before he was in shape. Like, this is just when he
Mm-hmm.
was like my size, right? And he did this run to honor his brothers. And to put your body into that state where, I mean, I don't know if people realize, like, breaking your foot is a big deal, right? Especially when you're, 280 at that point, right? Okay. And then you're running on it. Okay. And then now you're running on two broken feet, like not one, but two. Okay. And then you literally, your body is shutting down, right? You're pissing blood, bleeding internally to some degree. I mean, it's like, and, to have the mental fortitude to finish, like have like 10 kilometers left, like not, you're not talking about like 100 feet. I mean, you're talking about like the guy had like 10 kilometers left. He had to finish it, right? And he had a time limit that he had to finish within. And it was like, I mean, the mental fortitude to do that is insane. Like, I don't know. I legitimately, and I know some pretty like mentally tough dudes, you know what I mean? And I don't know anybody. I just seriously do not know anybody that could do that. That to that level. Like Goggins is next level. But yeah, they were talking about it. Huberman's great. They were talking about it. And it's interesting to me when looking into the wellness stuff, when I started my journey, seeing, just how many people really don't understand, right? Like I mean, in the golf business, like there's not one person I know that doesn't have like either pain or like chronic inflammation or issues or whatever. Like there's not one person, right? I mean, legitimately. And I think being able to, help myself, and then that was like a natural thing. I was like, man, like I really just want to help these people. Like I just want to help people that I know. You know what I mean? Like, because when you don't realize how bad you're feeling, or you don't realize like the extent until it's not there. You just kind of take it for granted, right? You take it for granted that, like, you're going to wake up and as you get older, you're just going to have more aches and pains, right? Or you just take
Mm-hmm.
it for granted that your maybe mobility or range of motion is going to be not as good, or your strength or whatever. Like, you just take it for granted that's just the way it is. And it's not at all. Like, that's legitimately actually 180 degrees from what it has to be, and that's the weird part, you know what I mean? So, and that's why I try to do it, especially with golf, because it's, golf, incorporating golf the right way can not only help your physical ability and physical fitness and physical health, but it could also help your mental health as well.
Yeah, the gut brain connection that
Yeah.
recent times has come out to the masses. I
Yep.
think if you talk to some people, and I've had some of these people on the show that have known this for a long time, it's just that they didn't have the megaphone to, but now it's become more popular that you clean up your gut and your mental clarity improves tremendously. And I know, and I went through that. I went through a spell. Was it five? Well, I was feeling bad probably 7 years ago. Like had trouble sleeping, and it got to a point. If I slept 2 hours a night, it was a lot,
Wow.
and it turned into I got shingles, and then that turned into through the shingles they found cancer, and I knock on wood I got through that. So I and you don't realize it. And I I played pro golf, so I was, we'll say, an athlete, and I had some friends who were trainers and coaches, and in the Czech system, Paul Checks, and they got me into eating clean. And you got to cut out pasta and bread. So I've been doing that for 15, almost 20 years, and then to still get sick the way I did, but it was what to go through it and think that you're healthy, but then you really find out what real health is.
Right.
Like you are with the water and the things that you're doing, and it doesn't have to be that bad, and you don't realize it. And the best analogy I come up with for people who don't realize it is, I'm 52 now, and I had 2012 and 2015 vision until I was about 48, and all of a sudden, I didn't realize it, but the doctor said, "Here, put these glasses on," and I'm like, "Holy shit!" I call them my Superman glasses. I use them to drive. I don't really need them to read or anything, but it's like you don't realize that you start. Age does take its toll. I don't, and I know someone's going to say, "Well, Michael says, when you get older, you can feel like you're 20." No, I don't think that's what you're saying. But you don't have to feel as bad as if you're putting shit in your body. There are
Correct.
things that
Yeah.
you shouldn't
So
put in your body, and the things that you need for your body, you don't have to feel as advanced.
right. So
You
for
feel
me,
better
like the
for
way I
longer.
look at aging, right, is this, right? It's always gonna happen, right? Like you're never gonna stop aging. Okay. However, right, there are things that you can do to mitigate some of the consequences, right? So like, like the new term now is like biohacking. I get it. Like some of the products that I do use, they do help, repair your body on a cellular level. They do help you reverse age. So like, yes, you're going to age. It's just at what rate, right? So like chronologically, you could be 52, but biologically, like your organs have the potential to be like 32 or 33 or 30, depending, right? Exercise helps. Like, you look at the studies, if you're over 50 and you're exercising, it's like 3 times a week, it kind of reverses the age of your heart, by like 20 years roughly,
Mm.
right? Or whatever it is. So you're always going to age. It's just a matter of how. The thing that gets accelerated now is because people don't realize, even when they think they're doing the right things, okay, much their body is dealing with toxins and toxicity, right? So, like, water's a great example. Like, and now it's coming out, right? Now, like, I mean, for years I was screaming about like the fluoride in water and stuff like that. You should never drink it, right? And now all of a sudden, like when you look at like the neurotoxin reports of fluoride and stuff like that, it's crazy, right? Even bottled water though, like the microplastics, the glyphosates and
Hmm.
stuff like that are in the bottled water, right? And then understanding, and so then now you're fast forward, right? Like Gary Breckett talks about like hydrogen water. It's like, okay, he's like, hydrogen water is the best thing you can put in your body by a landslide, right? Okay. Well, he's right about 90%, right? Like, and the reason why I say that is because ERW or electrolyte reduced water is really the best you can put in, right? Because it's hydrogenated, yes, but it's also alkalized, right? And that's the thing, because so many things that you eat, even when you eat clean, um, it gets your body acidic, right? Because the nutrients aren't what they were in foods anymore because of the
No,
soil, because
it's
of
all
this, because of that.
depleted. Yeah.
So people think like they're eating spinach and they're going, I'm alkalizing my body. It's like, no, you're not, because the oxalates in the spinach so far outnumber it that any good you're doing to your body is being outweighed by the oxalates that are in there, right? And it doesn't matter if you're talking about spinach or kale or potatoes or this, sweet potatoes, whatever. The oxalates that are in these foods and stuff like that, and because of how they're grown and the soil and everything, it's just not there anymore, right? So you need a way to kind of balance that out, and that's where the electrolyzed reduced water comes in, because when it goes through the electrolysis process in the machine and it separates the hydrogen and oxygen molecules and creates these microclusters of hydrogen, which are great for you, and there's literally like 1,400 research papers on this. Like, it's not like me saying it. It's, right.
Mm-hmm.
The alkalinity portion of it as well is huge, right? And what it can do to cut inflammation, and what it can do to heal your gut, and what it can do, when you have doctors from, like gastroenterologists, like one of the number one gastroenterologists in the world, is out of New York. You have Dr. Wright, who's like the director of like the American Anti-Cancer Institute. And this is what he recommends. You have hospitals in Japan that use the water. You have doctors in Japan that use water all over the world. Like, once you start to really heal and give your body what it needs, it's amazing what it can do, right? And don't get me wrong, just like anybody, there are days that I have a homestead, right? I have a 10-acre homestead. So there are days like I'm bucking up firewood and stuff like that. And the next day, am I going to be a little sore? Sure, of course. You know what I mean? You're putting physicality into your body, right?
Yeah, it's the damage and repair of your muscular and soft tissue. It's going to be
Right.
there.
But at the end of the day, I mean, when I, like when I tell people like, yeah, I'm like, like I literally like I feel like I'm 30 again. Like I'm not joking about it. It's because I don't have the minor aches and pains, right? I don't have that inflammation, right? I don't have like where I'm straining to get out of a chair, right? Or to get up out of bed. Like I don't need to sit in the morning in a hot shower for 40 minutes just to loosen up, right? Or any of that stuff. So that's really, that's really the thing. And what's interesting about it is, through all the wellness stuff is like, and I tell people, because I'm like, look, the wellness stuff that I use, like, and that I promote and everything else, I said, it's not that I'm, selling you something. Like, I'm not selling you like just water or a water machine or whatever, right? Or anything. It's, I'm trying to help add years to your life. I'm trying to help, your quality of life be better. I mean, even for us, like walking around the show, right? You're walking around the PGA show. I mean, man, you're on your feet, 10 hours, let's say. Okay. Like walking around Orlando, Orange County Convention Center, okay, is incredible. I mean, maybe you're sitting down for 20 minutes, maybe if you're eating
Mm-hmm.
half hour, maybe. But like for the most part, man, you're on your feet for 10, 12 hours, like straight.
Yeah, you're doing 12, 15,000 steps a day.
Right.
Easy.
Right. And, and that's the thing. And it's like, and people don't realize, I mean, people don't realize two things. Number one, how great that it, I mean, obviously but also just, it takes a lot of, it takes a lot on your body. Right. And the thing is like, I have friends that are even just, slightly younger than me or around my age, 45, 43, 42. And they're like, that don't do what I do. And they're like, yeah, like it took me like, 3, 4 days to just recover from the show. And I'm like, really? I was like, okay. Meanwhile, because I drive down, right? Because I always have stuff with me and
Mm-hmm.
everything else. Usually I'm setting up and whatever else. But, I drove the 18, 19 hours back, like in one sitting, right? And the next day woke up and I was like, yeah, okay. And did stuff out here and whatever else. Like, so, cut your recovery time, cuts a lot of things. Like it's amazing the difference, and I think the other thing that amazed me is how many people take that for granted or put it off, right? Because like think about it, like if somebody gets sick, like just like let's say the flu, okay, and you're down with 101 fever for 2 days,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like you're like, oh my god, God take me now, like you know what I mean, like it's like it's crazy, right? And then all of a sudden, like you start to feel better, and then you start to feel 100%. You're like, wow, like what a difference, right? Well, now magnify that, right? Because people don't realize like the heart attack that you had in your 50s, okay, or whatever, didn't start in your 50s, like started in your 30s, right? You know what I
Probably
mean?
start earlier. Yeah, it could even start earlier than that.
Right. And
Shit,
that's
diet
the
and
thing.
lifestyle.
Like none of these things happen overnight, right? There's always little things your body is trying to tell you. And the numbers are kind of staggering. Like, to the amount of people that walk around that are chronically dehydrated, like literally over 75% of people are chronically dehydrated. That's insane. Okay. That is just insane when you consider how much your body is made up of water and like your brain needs water and it's like crazy, right? To function properly. Okay. Then like almost 40% of people are chronically inflamed. Okay. So just chronic inflammation, whether you're talking about joints, allergies, everything else. And when you really start diving deep and you realize that inflammation is literally one of the root causes for over 99% of diseases
Yeah,
and
especially heart
conditions.
disease, interior
Yeah.
inflammation of the arterial wall, endothelial cells, and everything else.
I mean, it is absolutely insane to me, right? That people would for something as easy as just changing the water you drink, okay, that could make such a huge difference. It blows my mind that people will overlook that, right? But you see it all the time, right? Because people smoke, right?
Mm-hmm.
They know it's bad for you, right? Unless you're getting the tobacco, right? Like you're getting the tobacco and you're
Yeah,
rolling,
pure tobacco without being
right, and
toxic.
you're rolling your own
Yes.
cigarettes, okay? But we're talking about like, okay, so people know that smoking is bad for you, right? And they know they should stop. They know the numbers, they know the stats. It's not hidden, okay? And yet, how many people they only stop when a doctor goes, okay, so like if you don't stop, you're gonna die, like immediately, right? That's when it hit home. It hits home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy to me, right? Because your health, people trade their time and for money and their health. But I'm like, at the end of the day, like if you don't have your health, you're gonna have your quality of life, whether it's being around your family or work or friends or whatever, just your general demeanor, you know what I mean, is changed. And it's insane to me. And that was the thing for me anyway. Like when I started, my body was breaking down bad. Like I had torn extensor tendon. I had tendonitis so bad in both elbows. I couldn't pick up a coffee cup. I legitimately, to pick up a coffee cup, I had to use two hands. Okay. And my wife, who's all of like 5'2", okay, right, is like laughing at me basically because here's this guy 6'5", 280, and I need two hands to pick up a coffee cup, right? That's how bad it was getting. My hip, same thing. I was having problems with my hip, my knee. And I said, this is not good. Like I need to change this. And doing that, because in the golf space, like there's no guaranteed contracts, right? Like if
Mm-mm.
like if I'm not out there hitting a golf ball,
You're not
I'm
getting
not
paid.
making money, right? So there's no guaranteed money. So you're sitting there and you're going, you know, okay, what do I need to do? And then when I did it, and it was so effective to the point where like I played golf this past week with my dad when I was down at the show. And, he was like, he's looking at me, and my dad's 73, he's gonna be 74 in March. And he's like, he goes, I gotta tell you, like, a couple of years there, man, a couple of years ago, I was kind of really worried about you. Like, because I was, I've watched you swing from when you were so young. I didn't pick up a club till I was about like 14 or so, but 15. But he goes, like, I was watching like your swing evolve a little bit because you couldn't make this move or you couldn't get into this position or you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. And now, like we played. I fired a pretty easy kind of even par without even thinking about it, right? I didn't even really get in any trouble or do this. I hit the flights I wanted, and he was like, and he's like, I haven't seen you swing like this since like before the big break, and that was like 15 years ago. You know what I mean? He's like whatever the hell you've done, man, with your body, he's like, it's crazy. He's like, you're moving like way better, right? And I think that's part of what prompted me to get into the wellness coaching part of it with helping people, is because you know I'm kind of wired as a coach, with golf and stuff like that and everything else, you know what I mean? And once I saw how much or how many people are affected by a lot of these things, I was like, shit, I kind of want to do that. It's fun. It's fun to like kind of help people feel better. You know what I mean? It's also interesting at times, because you see kind of the medical, the health industry is like the golf industry at times, where it gets like uber
It's even
political.
worse if you can believe it. Like,
Oh no, it definitely is worse. It definitely is worse. And the health industry kind of hates the wellness industry, because the wellness industry, if you're doing it right, you don't necessarily need the health industry as
mm-hmm.
much. So they kind of hate the wellness industry, which is even, but like, like one of a former player that wasn't even one of my players that I coached against when I was coaching college had gotten into a really kind of horrible accident, like freak accident. They got hit in the head with a golf ball. And about a little over a year ago, and they were having a really hard time where they had pain every day, they had all this stuff, whatever, and like vertigo and can't drive, can't do this, can't do that. Like, their mother moved in to help take care of the kids. Like, it was like a huge, it's a huge thing. And, she had reached out to me and had seen some of my content and stuff like that. Started with the patches and stuff like that, and then the water and everything else. And now, she goes, I'm thinking of doing this, doing some hyperbaric treatments and therapy. I said, I think that's awesome. Like, hyperbaric therapy is amazing. Like, I want to get a hyperbaric chamber for my house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the funny part is with each step incrementally that she's done, she's like, my brain fog has been gone. My vertigo is gone. My equilibrium is better. My tinnitus is gone. My this is gone. My that is gone. And it's like, wow, and you're sitting there seeing these differences, and she was telling me like now, like after her first 2 sessions doing the hyperbaric therapy that, she was able to actually, where her neck was very stiff and almost frozen, that they were able to actually move it and crack it and get some of that pain and functional movement back. And I said, that's amazing. And, we're not talking about anything crazy. I mean, we're talking about things naturally, like hydrogen, oxygen, light, sound frequency, stuff like that. Like, these are things that are very natural, right? But that have proven to really help a lot of people, right? And it's amazing. It's kind of crazy to see, but it's also really cool to be a part of. You know what I mean? Like if one day, if she can get back on a golf course, because she was a good golfer, like she was a pro. You know what I mean? She was a pro. She's done the big break, like the whole thing. I mean, if she can get back on a golf course one day, especially with her kids, that would be like, for me, that'd be like a huge win, right? Because that's, I don't care about really anything else, but like the fact that you would be able to get that time back and, with your family, with your kids, would be a huge win. So, it's definitely pretty amazing to see the transformations.
Ben Shear was just on. In fact, his episode came
Yeah.
out yesterday, and it was great. And towards the end, we were talking about, and I just had a post. I cut out a piece that I was talking about, not to promote myself. Obviously, people are tuned in to hear Ben, but we had a discussion about the overuse of science. So my latest post on Instagram is science being used too much, in particular in golf, and this, to give people context. If you're going to see that post, you're going to try to knock it. It's like, Ben had mentioned a study that, Luke Donald was obviously number one in the world at one time, and from, I think it was 50 yards and in, no one was even close.
Yeah.
And someone came out and said, "Can we test Luke?" And they said, "Sure." And it came out to, Luke's spin on those shots was 9 to 10,000, and the scientist came back and said, "Well, our model says this, and it should be around 5 or 6 to 7,000 max. And if you lower your spin rate down, you could be a really good wedge player." They're like, "He's number one in the world."
Right.
Like, why
Exactly.
would he go the average? So the discussion that we had revolved around science, how studies are done, and then they usually take an average or an aggregate, and they say, here's the median or this or that, and it's like, well, that's where we say there's an overutilization of science if you don't know the nuances, as Ben does in the fitness space. So
Yeah.
I posted that said, hey, science is great, but be careful how you utilize it, especially when you see these arguments in the golf coaching world. But man, it's to your point, you got all these, where Ben went with it was, you got all these modalities like acupuncture and foam rolling and ice baths and sauna and hyperbaric, like you're talking about. These things have, most of these things have been around for 6,000 years, and they're still being used. It's not like, well, our science, you can't prove it. You can't just like, okay, I've got 6,000 plus years of people around the planet using these things. There's your proof. Because you can't replicate it in a lab doesn't mean it's not working for somebody. It might not work for everybody, but it's working
Right.
for a lot.
Well, and it's true. I mean, like, and that's why I kind of reference like the 1400 papers and stuff like that, because I know people just, they want to, they want that kind of crap. But the thing is people don't realize, like, I mean, saunas, are amazing. Like, I got to do an unboxing video. I just picked up a red light sauna that I got to put up, right? And now you're starting to get some of the data where it's like, if you just sauna, so 2 hours a week, right? So 30 minutes, right? For 4 times a week. Okay. If you do red light sauna, or sauna for that, for 30 minutes, 4 times a week or more, you reduce your all cause mortality by over 40. Okay, that
It's
is
crazy.
right. So something that you could do, right? So like, imagine this, right? So imagine doing something for 2 hours a week. If you just do 2 hours a week, that's it, right? And you can reduce your risk of dying by all causes by 40%. Okay. That is insane. Why you wouldn't do it is beyond me. Okay. Even investment wise, right? And okay. And then even as something as this, right? So again, I'm redneck, right? So I'm drinking out of a mason jar, but so like, Yeah, no, it's water. This one's water. I got the moonshine upstairs. That I do, and I actually have a buddy of mine making me a copper still so I can run some shine.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like I'm just redneck in the hills generally, um, but no, this is water. So I drink, like 3 to 4 of these a day, right? Whatever it is, maybe five, depending. I try to drink about a gallon a day, right? So if I encourage anybody to do this, right? There's a website, it's ewg.org or whatever, right? You can go on
Yeah, very
there
good website.
so you can see what's in your water. Okay. And I caution you because you generally probably don't want to see what's in your water. Okay. Because once you do, you're never going to look at it the same again. Tap water is absolutely like the worst, like literally one of the worst things you could drink. Bottled water is not great. I mean, even companies, and I don't want to, I'm not going to call the company out. Okay. Because I really don't want to do that. Okay. But there's an electrolyte company that is very popular. Okay. That people like to use to add to their water to hydrate, because to hydrate properly, it's not just enough to drink water. You usually have to add either salt or electrolytes. I personally prefer salt. That to me is the best, whether it's pink Himalayan sea salt or Celtic sea salt, that's fine. But here's the thing is, so this company now, they're they don't put it on the ingredients list. Okay. It's under artificial flavor or natural flavors. That's what it's under. And it's like 400 milligrams of like whatever it is, like monodexahydrin or whatever it is, which is like worse than sugar.
Right.
Okay, for your body. Okay. Now again, this is a popular company that's supposed to be healthy, that is supposed to be, like above board, that is supposed to be great for you to be able to remineralize and re-energize, right? Now you don't know you're ingesting that. That's crazy to me. Okay. And again, I don't want to call out the company because that's just not what I'm here for. But that is nuts. Okay. Now, people ask me like, why do I use what I use, like supplement wise and stuff like that? Like when I microdose with like methylene blue, or I take shilajit and sea moss and stuff like that. The stuff that I use, the company that I use that you see, I mean, everything is organic. Everything's USDA organic. Everything is third party tested. Literally every supplement and everything they put out. There is a reason for that. You know what I mean? Because you have to know what you're getting, right? You have to know what you're getting. Now, the water part of it, I mean, once you understand the importance of it, because it doesn't matter what supplements you like to take, it doesn't matter what shakes you like to take or don't take, it doesn't matter if you're just talking about just water in general. If you can put this water into your body, it will. I mean, I'm not trying to oversell it when I say it's like miracle water, but it is, because it is the only water that has negative. It's literally negatively charged, negative ions. Like the effect that it can have. I mean, I just put out a video today on my Facebook where I forget the guy's name is Doctor. I'm always posting like different doctors and stuff, but and he talks about it. He goes like, if you drink a liter of this water, the electrolyzed juice water from these machines and stuff like that, these ionizers, you can't eat enough fruits and vegetables to equal it from an antioxidant standpoint. Like that's crazy. Like that's crazy. Okay. You know, for something as small as that, yeah, it's an investment. Like your health is an investment. Of
Mhm.
course it is, right? I mean, your bed is an investment, right? Like what you sleep in,
Yeah,
you
you're in
spend a
eight
third of your
hours a
life
day.
sleeping,
Yeah.
right? So, everything is an investment. But the thing is that if you don't make the investment into your health proactively, you're going to be forced to make the investment in the treatment. And unfortunately, I can almost guarantee, I mean, I'll never say 100%, but I could like 99.9999 that the cost for the treatment in time and money is going to be far greater than the cost for the
Hmm.
prevention in time and money, right? And that's the thing, and it's wild to me to see people uh shrug some of this stuff off. You know what I mean? It really is. Like I'm like, man, I guess it is because I'll hear them, right? Like they'll be the ones generally that are complaining about how they feel. Like that's the funny part. Like, oh, getting old sucks. I'm like, does it? I don't know. Like I'm 47, man. I feel phenomenal.
Hmm.
Like I feel great. So I don't know.
Where so tell me about how the water, because I've seen your posting. You've got the different Is it acidity, the 2.5 versus the 11.5? Tell me how that works. But and then the question I'd after that is, what has happened in society that water is no longer, we don't have access to that on a regular basis?
So I could answer that second part super easy, right? So money and control. I mean, simple, right? I mean, honestly, money and control, right? So the thing is this, right? You know, water used to be, right? Think about where people used to get water. Okay, people used to get water from the ground, right? From a
Mm-hmm.
spring, right, or a well that they had to dig. And most people, when they had to dig a well or do something like that, or they get it from like flowing water where they gravity feed it, that's how society used to get water. Okay, and the ground naturally filtered it, but also added minerals to it, like it just did.
Yes, off the.
Okay, so now and then one day, we got to a point where we built cities, right? And now there had to be control of the water. Why? Because the government figured out that they can pay you for it, that they can charge you for it, right? Through, your water bill, meter, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everything else. And I understand the initial intent was probably to make sure everybody got clean water. But the thing is, through a bunch of things, whether you want to talk about, um, you know, cloud seeding or any of that stuff, or even just stuff that gets put into the soil and you have runoff like pesticides and stuff like that, because that's what people don't realize, right? Like, like you have farms and you have people that are putting pesticides on stuff and then it rains and then that goes into the water,
Yeah,
right?
washes
So
out.
water
Yeah.
has gotten contaminated crazily. I mean, what was it last year or 2 years ago, where 2 years ago we had a couple of trains, dump toxic chemicals into two of the biggest water supplies for the country, right? So, and also too, when you think about it this way, the infrastructure, okay? So they created this infrastructure for the piping and everything, right? But they don't change it, right? Like they don't change it they don't go, once a year or once every, we have to, update this, right? So, infrastructure is a lot of things that cause the water nowadays to be um, really substandard, right? Then you look at even just what they added. Somebody said, yeah, we're going to add fluoride to the water. It's a neurotoxin.
Yeah,
Like, who thought that
fluoride,
was a good idea?
chlorine. I think chlorine they added
Right.
in the 50s.
Chlorine, all that stuff. Like, who thought that was a good idea, right? I mean, that's like, it's crazy, right? Oh, we got to put the chlorine in to kill some of the pathogens. Well, do you? There's other ways you could do this. There are natural ways you can do that, right? I mean, UV light, for example, kills a shit ton of pathogens,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, electrolysis does too with water treatment plants, and ironically, that's the process these ionizers do. So the ionizer that I kind of recommend that I talk about and that have all these different certifications, including ISO certifications in Japan. It's a Japanese company that makes them. The company's Enagic. They've been around for 50 years. I mean, so the company's not new. It's not like this, like, fly by night thing. Okay. The water machines are all made out of Osaka and they are registered. The ISO certification gives them, they're registered as medical devices. That is what they
Oh,
are. So it's literally medical grade water, right? So essentially what happens is you put the machine, it's the simplest thing. It takes you 5 minutes to hook up. Okay. I mean, you just unscrew your faucet, put an adapter, bam, you're done, right? You have a diverter, you're done. What happens is the water goes into the machine, it goes through a filter and it goes through an electrolysis process. Okay. So there's no chemicals like Essentia water, for example,
mm-hmm.
which is supposed to be alkaline water. If you look on the back of that, they add sodium bicarbonate. They add baking soda to the water to make it alkaline. That's a chemical reaction. That's insane. I mean, you're drinking fucking Arm& and Hammer. I mean, that's okay. I mean, so the electrolysis process, they have eight, well, depending on the machine, some have seven, some have eight. I use the K8, which is their top model. It has eight platinum coated titanium medical grade plates. Okay, so that is what does the electrolysis process. What that does is essentially it breaks up the molecules where it separates the hydrogen, separates the oxygen, right? And it creates these microclusters. So when the water comes out for what's called Kagen water, it comes out a little cloudy. Like you'll see the microclusters swirling in the water. Now that's great. That's the hydrogen water. That's awesome, right? But what it does is it does one step further. And this is what I was talking about with Brecca, which I would love to talk to him about, is it separates the acidic water from the
Mm-hmm.
alkaline water. Your body is meant to be naturally slightly alkaline. Okay, that is when it runs its best. Why? Because alkaline tissue, so disease, cancer, parasites, cannot live and thrive in an alkaline environment. Okay. They just can't. So what happens is the alkaline water that comes out is amazing to put into your body. Okay. From an antioxidant standpoint, I mean, an 8-ounce glass of the water is equivalent to eating over 2 pounds of blueberries from an antioxidant standpoint. Okay. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you're drinking like a liter of it or whatever, like, you would have to eat so much to try to get what this water can do for you. Now, not only does it help with inflammation and everything else, but the other cool part about the water is because it goes through the electrolysis process this way. If you put an ORP meter in there, which is just, it's a tester, it tests whether something is positively or negatively charged, like a liquid, right? Anything that's positively charged is aging you. It's taking life from you. That is what it's doing, right? Because humans, I mean, we're electrical beings. I mean, that's why when your heart stops, they have to give you an electrical charge. I mean, that's what it is, right? So we're electric. So anything that is negatively charged is adding life to you, okay, is giving. So in all these different papers of electrolyzed juice water, they're saying that, ideally you want the ORP to be over minus 200. That's ideal. Okay. Anything over that is great, right? So when I test my water, what comes out of the machine, what routinely comes out is negative like 700, 750. I mean, it's crazy. Okay. So the amount of negative charge and stuff. So that is what's helping your body, right? Does a lot of things. What it does is it penetrates your cells much quicker. The microclusters do pass the brain blood barrier, so it does hydrate your brain better. Your brain fog is like eliminated. It's phenomenal. Energy, it gets, I've even posted slides where real world, where you'll see like they'll take somebody's blood and you'll see the red blood cells. They're not very active. And then they drink a glass of the water, and then literally like 4 minutes later, they pull the blood, and now you see the blood is like actually move. It's crazy to see how it helps your
Very
blood
cool.
flow. Yeah, I mean, it's nuts, right? And the thing is the hydrogen bottles, I know they're new and I know that they're, people love them. I've had them. My issue with them is a couple of different things. I mean, again, they're only limited to the drinking part, right? But also the way they do it, they don't do it through electrolysis. They do it through like a proton exchange, which is not the best. A lot of times they do get, kind of because they don't really clean or dry fully. So they do kind of get that like moldy or chloriney smell or whatever, these bottles, which you don't really want to put into your system, you know. The other part for me, for the machine, which is why I kind of say every business or household should have it, is it creates, 7 different types of water, right? So you alluded to it where it can go from anywhere from 2.5 acidic water or what's called hypochlorous acid, which ironically is like all the rage now with beauty. Like, women are paying like, $40 to $80 for these like bottles of hypochlorous acid to put on their skin and stuff like that, right? Meanwhile, it's like on tap. Like I have it on tap. Like I don't need to pay anything. Like I just hit a button, right? But also what the hypochlorous acid does is it eliminates all these pathogens. So that's why people love it, right? Because it eliminates it eliminates 99.9% of germs. It eliminates all viruses like coronavirus, staph infections, stuff like that, right? So to clean your utensils or rinse utensils in that is great because you're sterilizing it.
Mm-hmm.
The 11.5 highly alkaline water, that actually, the old saying, oil and water don't mix. Well, it actually, the 11.5 alkalinity, it's so alkaline that it actually emulsifies oil. So for
Wow.
degreasing, for cleaning your oven, for cleaning the pesticides and the wax off of your produce, amazing, right? So like how like seriously, like how good, because that's really what it is, right? Like, who wants to eat pesticides? You know what I mean? Because doing it with just rinsing your veggies and stuff in regular water doesn't do anything. That
No, it
stuff
doesn't do
doesn't
shit.
come off. So the 11.5 highly alkaline is great for that, right? It also has 6.0 beauty water, which is again is great for like firming your skin up and stuff like that. Like my wife loves that. She's, I mean, I'm not going to say her age because she'll kill me, but she definitely doesn't look her age. Obviously, she's younger than I am, but she definitely doesn't look her age. Even I even have the mineral ion, the shower unit as well, because again, people don't realize like they'll get like a filter for their drinking water, right? But they don't realize like your skin is like your biggest organ, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're taking a shower for 10 or 15 minutes, it's like drinking 8 glasses of water. So like if your shower water is not good, it doesn't matter what you do drinking wise. So I have like the mineral ion shower units as well. And you notice a marked difference like with your skin and stuff like that. I mean, the health benefits of it, I mean, are pretty, like I said, are pretty amazing. I mean, I have a friend of mine who is another wellness coach. She had stage 3 thyroid cancer, didn't want to do chemo, didn't want to do radiation because 97% of chemo and radiation patients die from the chemo and radiation. I mean, it's like it's horrible. And so all she did was she got one of these machines, changed her diet, started drinking the highly alkaline water, the 9.5, even mixing in the 11.5 a little bit, and cancer free. Cancer's gone. It's crazy, right?
Amazing.
Dr. Wright, I've posted videos of him talking about it. He wrote a book called Killing Cancer, Not You. And like I said, he's director, he's doctor, the head doctor at the American Anti-Cancer Institute. He's been recommending the machine forever. He's like, I've used it with cancer patients. He goes, I've had patients go from stage 4, cancer where they have like 90 days where roughly, they've been told they have 90 days left to live, where after 120 to 150 days, they're cancer free. I mean, it's pretty incredible. Over 260 hospitals in Japan use the water. They use these machines in the hospitals to give their patients. Over 6,500 doctors in Japan use the water with their patients. Even, like I said, gastrointestinal doctors that, talk about healing your gut and healing your intestines. They go, if you drink this water and I forget the guy's name. It's a Japanese doctor. He's got an office in New York. I posted it. He talks about it. He goes, after drinking the water, he goes, after like 4 weeks and everything else, he goes, you can see like people's guts are completely healed. And what they do is it's really amazing the power that something as simple as a glass of water can have, proper water, but also it's frightening when you go down the rabbit hole to see how that has been tainted, you know what I mean, through like reservoirs or through, I mean, I guess, I want to say ineptability or ineptitude, right? But I kind of fear it's more corruption than anything, I mean, listen, same thing with air, right? I mean, like, I mean, clean air, you know what I mean? It's like, it's, there's a business behind it, right? Which is crazy. Like, it's insane. It's like that old, the scene in, in Spaceballs where he pops the can to breathe the air. I mean, that's, I kind of feel like that's where we're going, right? I thought, guys are gonna be, oh, okay, and it's like, I mean, it's amazing, right? And that's part of the reason why I live where I live, right? Is because of like the air quality and stuff like that. Like when they were having those, fires in Canada that they didn't know what it was, that RNG, whatever, okay,
Mm-hmm.
chemically smell and all that stuff. No, this isn't toxic, right? It was so weird because like I remember those days and like down in like New York City, it was just like a blanket of like orange, yellow, red, like it's like don't go outside. And then meanwhile, like I go outside here in my holler over here, right? Because that's pretty much what I have right between these mountains or whatever. And like the sky's like dead blue and it's great. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have any of this stuff. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, right? So, it's no matter how good you are at things, like at trying to control everything in your environment, unfortunately, you're never going to be able to, right? And they don't realize the amount of toxins. Like, yes, your lymph system is made to expel this stuff, your kidneys, all that stuff. The problem is it's so overloaded. It is so overloaded because of the processing in foods and everything else. I mean, even think about it this way. Think about how brainwashed people are, okay? That they believe that raw milk, so like just right from a teat,
Mm-hmm.
okay, is bad for you. that that your body somehow can't process this. Okay? Like I'm just like let this sink in for a second. Okay? So you're telling me if I have a cow and I go out and I go and then drink it that my body can't that's like horrible to put in that I should put in ultra pasteurized stuff in my body,
Yeah,
right?
that kills all the benefits of what
It
is in the
kills
milk.
all the probiotics, kills
Yes,
everything, right? Kills
everything.
everything. So this is the thing. So people don't realize like your body is toxic because of these choices, right? So, and people also don't realize, like they say, I'm lactose intolerant. You're actually not, okay? And I did this with a buddy of mine. He goes, I'm lactose intolerant. I'm like, you're not. I'm like, you're allergic to the pasteurization process. That is what you're allergic to. So if I give you raw milk, here you go, try it, and then drink it, you don't have a reaction. Well, you're not lactose intolerant. It's just
Hmm.
because of the pasteurization
Yeah, all the
process,
shit
right?
that's happened to it.
Right. Same thing with gluten. People go, well, I'm allergic to gluten. It's like, no, you're not. You're not allergic to gluten at all. What you're allergic to is the process, the ultra processization of like wheat, because like if you just take sourdough that is just straight flour and water, right? You're not allergic to that, right? If you go eat pasta in Italy, you're not allergic to that.
Yeah,
It's not
people don't get
gluten,
all swollen up and feel like
right?
shit when they go to Italy
So
for a week or 10 days.
right. So you're not allergic to gluten. You're allergic to the chemicals they do when they process the flour. That is what you're allergic to. If you got your own, again, your own, if you made your own sourdough and your own bread, like my wife does, right? I can eat
Hmm.
bread all freaking day. But why? Because she makes her own. She makes her own sourdough, right? And when she makes pasta, it's the same thing. Like, like she goes, oh, okay, here's crack some eggs, here's some flour, okay, and here we go. Here's pasta, right? When you do that, but again, it's the information is so one-sided, and people don't realize how much they're being, they're literally being brainwashed. I mean, even take something, okay, we're golf pros. Here's a great example. We're golf. So we're out in the sun all day,
Hmm.
generally, right? Now, the sun, the thing that gives life to everything on this planet, okay? Literally, you have animals that want to sunbathe to soak in the sun. You have plants that reach for it. I mean, it is literally responsible for life on this planet. And people think it's actually dangerous to them.
Yeah, I don't get that one.
I
That's
mean,
amazing.
again, the amount of brainwashing is insane. Ironically, the skin cancer comes from two things. It does not come from the sun. It comes from the sunscreen that
Hmm.
people put on and the chemicals in the ultra processed foods they eat.
I had a long discussion with some friends who were in the holistic side of not that their family was traditional medicine. I give them all the credit. They went in holistic side, so they had both sides of it. And
Right.
we've talked about this numerous times, and it was basically the simplest thing of what you just said. It's like if your skin has a regenesis, so you get a completely new epidermis every, I think it's 3 months, give or take the person. But you're rebuilding it with shit, meaning you're eating fast food, you're eating this processed stuff on a regular basis. It's like, what do you think's going to happen to a structure if you're using suboptimal material? If you build a house out of balsa wood, how long is that house going to last?
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, that was anyone that you talk to that's in that field will say exactly what you just said. You're
And I see
eating shit.
golf pros all the time, right? Post, make sure you put your sunscreen on. I'm like, are you fucking joking me? Like, dude, it's like I said, the brainwashing to think, okay, that the eggs, okay, like eggs are bad for you. I mean, there was a
Been eaten
recent,
since the dawn of time, and now all of
right.
a
There
sudden
was
they're bad.
the best thing I read was like maybe 2 months ago. It was a Harvard student to prove how that eggs were not bad for you. Okay. He ate 700 eggs in a month. 700.
It's like Cool Hand Luke.
Right. Okay. He went 700 in a month and his cholesterol went down. His blood pressure went down. And it's like, and he actually ended up losing weight, right? And
Hmm.
got fitter. But it's like, yeah. So I tell people fasting is huge, right? Like fasting is a big thing. If you can do a 24-hour fast and then maybe, like a few days later do like a 3-day fast, like just a water fast where you're just, it's just water, coffee, tea, that's it for
Hmm.
3 days. That would do wonders for your immune system and your gut health and stuff like that. Red meat is vital, honey, butter, like real butter, salt, and raw milk. Like if you kind of stick to those things, even if you don't want to drink the raw milk, if you want to find cheese, because they do make it, if you want to find cheese that is raw, unpasteurized cheese, because they do make it, that's great. That's fine. You want to take it that way, no problem. As long as it's, unpasteurized. Those things, I mean, those things are life. Like people ask me, they go, I had a guy at an event. He goes, man, he goes, you know, you hit the ball like this, you know, you look good, you're this, you're for your age and everything. He goes, like, what do you do? And I said, well, the best advice I can give you is if a doctor tells you to do it, I probably do the opposite. And if he tells you not to do it, I probably do it. Right. I said, I eat roughly 20 to, like 20 to 25 ounces of red meat a day, minimum. I eat 4 to 6 eggs a day.
Mm-hmm.
I have honey every day, salt every day. And then after that, whatever I want to eat, I kind of eat, right? There are days that I literally will just eat, like 3 steaks, like in a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
My ultimate breakfast, I tell my wife, she knows. So my ultimate breakfast is I have uh generally like a 20, 20 plus, like 23, 24 ounce steak, something like that, right? With slathered with butter. Okay, just real butter.
Perfect.
Yeah, I have like 6 eggs, and then I'll usually do some kind of like sauerkraut or like fermented
Fermented
cabbage or
food. Yeah.
something like that, right? That to me is like the most ideal thing. That's the other thing too. Like I love sauerkraut and like kimchi and shit like that. Fermented foods, people don't realize, how good they are for you. I also do eat beef liver. So, usually just cook it up like liver and onions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize how good that is for you. They're just thinking like, oh, it's liver. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But, it's good if you
It's
make
got
it
all the vitamins in it.
right. If you make it the right way, and then, like I said, on top of that, I do, people go, well, if you're getting these minerals and stuff with your diet, like, why do you take stuff like shilajit and stuff like that? Because that's remineralization. I said, well, it's not just for the remineralization. So shilajit, like fulvic acid and stuff like that, and I do like zeolite and chlorophyll drops and stuff like that. I said, what it does is those are detoxes for heavy metals, right? I said those are detoxes for like graphene oxide. Because even though I haven't, been jibby jabbed or anything like that, and I don't do any of that stuff, you never know where it could come from, right? So, heavy metal detoxes are huge. I probably do about 2 detoxes a year, with humic acid, fulvic acid, stuff like that. Like I said, zeolite, chlorophyll. The saunas do help with the detoxing
Yeah.
as well.
Saunas help a lot with that.
One of the best things you can do to detox, but also the Kangen water. The Kangen water, because it kind of resets your system. Like I'll know a marked difference like when I'm on the road a lot, like uh like through the year, if I have a really particularly busy month or something, and then I come home and I'm like kind of chugging the water, yeah, there are days like, half the day I'm spending just, running, just, kind of to the bathroom pissing because I just, I need to, my body needs to kind of reset, The cool part for the show was so the thing I love about the machines is because they hook up to the faucet and they're not a whole home machine, you can actually take it with you when you travel. So like you mentioned, for example,
Very
like if you
cool.
get an Airbnb next year, right? Like you could just take the machine with you to the Airbnb, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you have your water with you during the week. Now, the reason why I didn't take it with me, which I normally would because I was down for 2 weeks, is because in Orlando, they have an Enagic office in Orlando. So
Wow.
all I had to
Very
do
cool.
was go into the office and I can get 2 gallons of Kangen water a day. So I didn't have to bring my machine. It was great. I was like, oh, okay. I walked in, the girl's like, I'm like, hey girls, just here for the white. Like, yep, yeah, go ahead, go, no problem. And they have like the setup like 4 sinks and the different machines. I'm like, yeah, go ahead, have at it, do what you want to do. So I was able to sit there and fill my gallon jug or fill different glass bottles and stuff like that, and have it with me.
Is there a website that people can go, like if whatever city they're in, listening to this around the country or
Yeah,
wherever, that they can get
so
on and check it out?
yeah, to find out about the water, it's just enagic.com, enagic.com. That has all the info in terms of like what Kangen water is, what the machines can do, and stuff like that.
And
And they're
where they can find it, like so that they can maybe go try it before they go investing in a machine.
so to purchase it. So on there, they'll show you where they have it. It's like New York City has one, Orlando has one, LA has one. I think Dallas and Texas has one, and there's a couple more
Mm-hmm.
in the country. In terms of like being able to get the machines, you can't get them retail. You can only get them through kind of distributors, which is also one of the cool things because if you purchase a machine or a unit, you're actually not listed as a retail customer. You're listed as a distributor, which means you can actually write it off, which is actually pretty cool, because why not? If you could write it off on your
Yeah,
taxes.
very cool.
I don't know anybody that's not really looking for a tax break, but but yeah, so that's pretty cool. But you can try it. Toronto, they have it. Vancouver, I think they have an office. But on the website, on the Enagic website, it'll have where the offices are. Uh, but I mean, what I tell people is like, I mean, and they have different, the settings on the machine too. They have like the clean water, which is a 7.0, so it's neutral. So if you're, taking medication or something, you could do that. And the Kangen water part, they have 8, 9, and 9.5, right? So we cook with the 8 and the 9.0 water, which actually helps the food, helps nutrients and stuff like that. I probably will be getting a second machine. I did it where I got 2 of the shower units because I have 2 showers, and then I got the machine for the house. I probably will get another machine to have as like a loaner. Some distributors do that. They'll have like, they'll say, hey, put it in your house for a couple weeks or whatever. But the thing is, I mean, I encourage everybody to really seriously look into it because at the end of the day, like the evidence behind it, from the scientific stuff and research standpoint to even just the testimonials and the doctors and the hospitals that are behind it, like it's not BS. You know what I mean? Like if you actually really, and again, people call me a biohacker at times or whatever else. And yeah, microdosing with things that, like methylene blue and stuff, I mean, is a biohack, and there's other stuff. But like I tell people, the single biggest biohack that you can do for your body, hands down, not even a question, is changing the water that you put into your body, right? Because no matter what else you do as a biohack, it does not matter whether you're talking about red light therapy, whether you're talking about microdosing, whether you use mushrooms, like lion's mane or any of that stuff, whether you're using, the For Wellness coffee stuff, like it doesn't matter what you're doing to try to biohack your body. The one constant across the board for all of it is water, like hands down. Like that's the thing. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing like in golf, right? Like as a long driver, look, I have an advantage obviously on a tee shot, okay, on a tee box, hands down. But from 125 yards and in, I have no advantage over anybody. Like over anybody. It does not matter. Male, female, young, old, whatever. You know what I mean? And just like in golf, the quickest way to help your game and lower your score is that 125 and in zone, or even 100 yards in end zone, whatever you want to call it. I don't have an advantage, right? That's where you neutralize everything. Okay. And so it doesn't matter what your game is for golf, that zone neutralizes everything. And it's the same thing with the water. It doesn't matter what you're doing for your body. I mean, if you're working out, great. This water will help elevate your workouts. If if you're doing, some biohacking stuff, like I said, or whatever it is, even if you're just doing protein shakes and stuff like that, again, this water will take it to that next level, right? It'll help your body really work the best, okay, and get you to an optimal state, okay, and get you into that constant state of like homeostasis or ketosis or whatever you want to, where your body is operating the way it should. You know what I mean? And it literally is the single biggest biohack anybody can do. You know what I mean? And for people that do it, I mean, it's like I said, man, it's crazy, to see the differences and to feel the differences.
You had mentioned the fasting intermittent, whether it's you know a 16/8 or a 3-day fast or whatever it is. For someone out there listening that says, well, I'll just get the Kangen water machine and I'll continue to eat fast food for lunch, and I'll continue to just eat pasta from the local grocery store, not have made or something like that. I don't want someone to be out there and say, "Well, I'm just going to drink Kangen water and I'm going to be healthy." It's like, no, you got to do. It's a great thing and it does
Right.
wonders for your body, but you can't
Yeah.
continue to bombard it with a shit lifestyle.
Well, yeah, because you're not gonna, I mean, if you change nothing else but just the Kangen water, will you be healthy? Yeah. I mean, you'll be
Hmm.
healthier than what you are. But realistically, I mean, let's be honest, it's, like, if you think of your car as an engine, right? Like, if I have 2 engines, okay, and one of them gets, regular oil changes every 3 to 5,000 miles, and the other one gets oil changes every 10,000 miles, let's say, right? Which one in the long run is going to be operating better, right? That's what it is. Like your body, is a, I mean, I don't want to say a temple, but your body, I mean, I hate that kind of thing, but your body, is I look at it like an engine. I'm a car guy. I mean, that's, I mean, I just am, right? So, I look at it to operate optimally. I mean, there's things you have to do, and that doesn't mean you can't indulge, right? Like that doesn't mean that you can't, have that drink, right? It doesn't mean that you can't, on occasion, go grab like White Castle or some shit like
Mhm.
that or whatever, and it doesn't mean that you can't have that pasta or you can't have this. Like I look at biohacking and health as similarly as I do with homesteading, where there's different levels to it, and you don't have to make these changes all at once. Like you don't have to make every change all at once. But I think if you do it in increments, I think what you'll find that you'll feel a lot better, and your brain will operate better, your mind, your cognitive function will operate better, your regularity in terms of your gut and stuff will operate better, and you'll start to notice like these different things, and it is each plan that somebody makes is individual for them. You know what I mean? So, they may say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to invest in this machine right now. Great. And then, another change, maybe just shopping in a farmer's market instead of going,
Mhm.
to whatever, right? Or, I mean, another great hack, right? Find a farm. Like, find a farm that is relatively near you if you can. And instead of going to get red meat from a grocery store or something like that, go get a half a cow. Like, invest in a freezer and go get a half a cow, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, there are places that will deliver it to you. My buddy Fast Eddie in Florida, he gets his meat delivered to him. 100% organic, grass fed cow. He gets it all delivered to him. He doesn't go to a supermarket, right? There
Mhm.
are ways that you can do it. Starting a garden is a great way too, as well. It doesn't have to be big. I mean, honestly, it doesn't have to be big. You're talking about, I mean, if you have a backyard, I mean, two planter boxes, kind of like, 4 feet by 2 feet or something like that.
Yeah, I tried that during COVID. I got 4 foot by 8 foot, and
Yeah.
I have a newfound respect for farmers because my
Yeah.
shit went sideways.
So,
I
I
mean, we
mean, it
did
can.
cucumbers. Yeah, we did cucumbers. We got some kind of moth. I'm like, fuck. And then I replanted them. Here we go. They come back in. Like, man, these things are awesome. They're huge. We cut them open. Like, why is these fucking worms in here? Like, oh
Yeah.
shit, we got them again. And then it's like all this other stuff. 60% of what you plant for some reason doesn't come to
Yeah.
fruition.
I mean,
And I'm like,
we, so
God damn.
we did raised beds here for the first time, right? And I had never done raised beds before. So we did raised beds. We did four of them, 4x4, right? And I got to say, like, my wife, man, God bless her, because for her first year doing it, like, I mean, it was highly successful. I was like, damn, And
God
whether it
bless
was
her.
tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini, peppers, because I'm also a spice guy, so I love hot. So, like we had Thai peppers, we had jalapenos, we had habaneros, we had, it was awesome. Like I was like, this is great, and I like making kind of like my own hot sauce and stuff like that and everything else. So when you look at that, I mean, but again, all these things are little changes. Like fasting is like one of the easiest things you can do. I mean, it's like, just don't. I mean, like if you eat from like 12 to 6, that's it.
Mhm.
Like 12 to 6, like there's your window, or 12 to 7, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like that's all you have to do. Like it's like, I mean, it doesn't. I know it seems daunting. I do. I get it. Like I understand. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be, and that's part of like where my coaching part comes in, right? Because, you're talking about it. You're trying to make a plan for someone to help them along. You know, Again, it's just little changes here or there, but I guarantee if you do it, again, I mean, you're gonna feel better. I mean, and it's so weird. Like listen, I was that guy. I mean, I took my health for granted. I did. I mean, I did. Like for the longest time, I took my health for granted. I'd be that guy at the show that I'd be. I'd get to the show at 8 a.m. I'm there till 6 o'clock. Okay, guys, where are we going to grab dinner? Okay, cool. We're gonna go grab steaks. All right, cool. Go grab. Okay, now where are we gonna go drink? Oh, we're gonna go
Mhm.
drink. We're gonna be out till 2 in the morning. Okay, cool. Oh, Denny's, awesome. Let's go to Denny's, man. Denny's sounds great. And then stay there till 4 or 5 in the morning, and then get back home, sleep for an hour or two, and then go back. Oh, yeah, got to be at the show at 8 o'clock. Okay. And then
Mhm.
do it all over again. And I would run at the show week. I would run when I was younger on coffee, whiskey, and like that's it. And you know, like that was it. Like it was either I either had coffee in my hand or whiskey in my hand. That was it, right? And I was probably averaging like 8 hours of sleep for cumulatively for 5 days.
Mm,
Like that's insane. You know what I
no
mean? I
kidding.
mean, it's like that scene in Rounders where he's like, "Look at you, you know, like a 72-hour stretch, and you already need a nap. Like, what the hell, you know?" But that's what my life was. Like, there were times I'd be up for 72 hours, you know, and it was, you know, it was crazy to see. Like, and yeah, I took it for granted because I was like, yeah, you know, I'm an athlete. I don't care. You know, you hit the gym or you jump in the jacuzzi, you jump in the sauna, or you do this, and then all of a sudden, when my body started breaking down, it definitely wasn't incrementally. You know what I mean? Because as someone that took it for granted, when it decided to break down, it broke down like in a probably 4 week time frame.
Wow. All caught up to you, like hitting a wall, all
Yeah,
caught up at once.
like it was super fast, and I was facing either surgery or retirement, and neither one of those worked for me. Like I was like, neither one of those worked for me. So I was like, I'm not doing that. And had that not happened, you know, I wouldn't have gotten turned on to the stuff that I got turned on to. And it was literally, I mean, it just altered everything. Like it was crazy. You know, even for my wife, I mean, you know, my wife, like, again, you know, even talking to her, because, you know, it's not like she's like 20, you know what I mean? Like, we don't have this huge age gap or anything like that.
Hmm.
And, you know, but even for her, like to where, you know, she is feeling great and feeling good, and we're out being able to do stuff on the property, and we're out, you know, being able to, because when I'm gone, you know, when I travel, because I still travel and I still travel probably, you know, probably 30 weeks a year, I would think, if not more.
Wow.
And, you know, like when you're traveling, you know, having a 10-acre homestead, like she has to take care of it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like she's the one, you know, yeah, I'm
There's
doing
stuff to do. You can't just say, I'm not going to do it, and it'll take care of
right.
itself.
And obviously I'm going to do the bulk of it with like, whether it's like, you know, like chopping down some trees or bucking up firewood or stuff like that. And for her, I do have stuff like a wood splitter and stuff. So she doesn't have to, you know, obviously do
Hmm.
that and wield an axe. But for the other stuff, like, you know, for the garden and, you know, taking care of, you know, whatever the animals and doing this and doing that, like, I mean, she's phenomenal with that. Like, you know what I mean? And I couldn't do what I do. Like, I couldn't go out there and do what I do if, you know, she wasn't doing what she does, you know, and she needs to be in good health too. So, I mean, it really has been pretty, you know, eye opening and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's been pretty cool actually.
Have you done anything with ice baths? You gotten into that
So
yet?
I do ice baths as well. Yeah. So ice baths are another thing I incorporate. You know, so my
Little
full
easier to
list,
do that way this time of year. You fill up a tank and jump in it because it's so
yeah,
damn
just leave it
cold.
outside. Yeah, just leave it outside and it stays, you know.
Well, I've had Dr. Tom Seeger on a couple times from Roscoe Forge.
Yep.
Great guy. And when he had an article he sent out yesterday, as you were talking about cholesterol, you know, the worry of cholesterol.
Right.
His article was all about how uh, with the drop in testosterone levels across the board from men
Yep.
all over the place. And he's like, okay, if you don't eat cholesterol, your body's not going to make testosterone,
No.
or
And
it's an integral part.
yeah.
And
And well,
you know,
your
getting the
brain needs
mitochondrial
cholesterol.
breakdown and everything else, it's like you
Right.
need this stuff.
Well, your brain needs cholesterol, right? I mean, if
Yes,
you have low cholesterol and you're on a statin, right, and stuff like that, your chances of getting dementia are like, you know, like,
skyrocket.
yeah. So the thing is, so like some of the stuff, you know, so like again, like I don't get me wrong. I mean, I biohack my body pretty hard. I mean, I'm not saying I don't, right? So for me personally, so you have the red light sauna, right,
Hmm.
which is huge, right, and then you have the ice baths, which are huge. Okay. The Kangen water is again huge because that ties in everything in terms of that helps my body uptake the nutrients the best and obviously helps for inflammation, stuff like that. I do take, so Nagic also has the largest turmeric farm in the world.
Wow.
So I also do take turmeric capsules from them because the capsules are made with the Kangen water and the turmeric is pure. It's phenomenal. So for inflammation, killing parasites, stuff like that, it's great. The patches that you see, the LifeWave patches that I wear, I've been wearing them for almost 2 years. Those are all holistic, non-invasive, non-transdermal. So there's no chemicals or anything like that. They just use your body's near infrared light to help stimulate different peptides in your body. That actually helped a ton. For supplements, the methylene blue I started taking recently, microdosing with that. That has been insane. That's a great hack. Methylene blue is, and I know it was a fabric dye originally, but oh my god, like
It's crazy.
right,
They were giving people shit about ivermectin being a horse dewormer. Now
right,
they're so you're taking denim dye.
right. But methylene blue, so what it does for your mitochondria, right? And what it does for like your neural pathways is insane. And when you do it in conjunction with red light therapy or red light sauna, it's insane. It boosts it. I mean, now they're finding out like with cancer patients, they're giving them methylene blue to because it kills cancer cells and stuff like that. So methylene blue is great. Shilajit and sea moss. Magnesium is something everybody should take. But here's the kicker with magnesium. To make it more bioavailable, you have to take it with D2 and K3. That's the thing. If you don't take it with D2 and K3, the magnesium is nowhere near as bioavailable and it doesn't break down. So I do take D2 and K3. All my supplements that I take, I get from, like I said, from Live Good, because they do, again, everything's organic. Everything is third party tested, every single supplement. Like it's not even close, right? But yeah, vitamin D and K3. And then, I take their vitality formula, which is like ashwagandha and, Tonkat Ali and all that stuff and everything else. So those are some of the stuff that I do from a biohacking perspective, right? I do have a grounding bed sheet that I sleep on. That's another one, another easy biohack. I mean, you can get them; they're great. I mean, you
Yeah,
just put it on your bed. I mean, you just go to sleep, right?
you can get one for $60 on Amazon.
Right, exactly. And you can literally, like, all you gotta do is go to sleep, right? So grounding bed sheet is huge. In the summertime, springtime, I do ground every day. I take all, I'm out there, on my property, because again, we're electric beings. That was the biggest thing I think that sold me when it came to the water, aside from like the testimonial stuff and the certifications and everything else, was understanding the ground is electric, okay, and when you're grounding and you're getting these negative ions, that's what's killing the inflammation, right? I mean, and it also helps with gardening, ironically, like when you do like the copper, like grounding, like you put a metal rod kind of in the ground and put a copper wire and it goes to your plants and stuff like that. It's amazing, like what it can do. But so literally when I started looking at the water and seeing that it was negatively charged and seeing it's like literally liquid grounding and what it can do to your body, I was like, this is like a no-brainer. So grounding is a great biohack. I do have I'm not wearing them now. I do have like red light, the blue light glasses. The only reason I don't wear them all the time is I haven't really found a company that I really love yet. I have another company I want to try, which I probably will try maybe in a couple months, and see how that works. Because, but I do. So when I'm at home, my phone is on airplane mode. I do have the do not disturb on usually from either 9 or 10 o'clock, and I don't touch my phone. I don't have it in the bedroom with me at all. And I do use Aries Tech, AIRES, the Aries Tech, like those EMF stickers and stuff like that, because they're phenomenal. Even our wedding rings, you can't really, I don't know if you can see it, but even our wedding rings, so they're what's called tensor rings. They're brass, copper, and sterling silver, and it helps with EMF radiation and stuff like that. Um, I try to do it, like I said, I try to do as much as I can. Probably big purchase will be a hyperbaric chamber, because again, flooding your body with oxygen is huge. I do have the O2 trainer that I use for training my lungs and stuff like that. When I sleep, I do have the mouth tape,
Yeah.
and the nose tape, which again, another simple biohack. I mean, that's like one of the easiest things you could do just to get better sleep.
Yeah, I had Alexander Romagnoli on. God, it's got to be a year and a half ago, and he works with. It was Nestor. Did he write the book? And then the guy who's the big breath. He wrote the book Breath or Breathe.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Nestor. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, Alexander works with him. We were talking. We had a whole show on breathing. I'll send you the link when we're done.
Oh, nice.
It was very interesting to have them
Yeah,
on.
I mean, it's crazy, like when you think about it, right? And the thing is like, so people don't think about it. And that was the other thing. That was the other thing that got me with the machine was Bryson uses it,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah, you had a post recently with.
yeah, so Bryson uses it, Tom Brady uses it, Cristiano Ronaldo uses it,
And
Manny
which one
Pacquiao
is
uses
this?
the Kagen one.
Interesting.
So Manny Pacquiao uses it. Eddie Hall, the strongman, he uses it. It's like all these top athletes, like Tom Brady is like religious about what he puts in his body.
Yeah, he
You know what I
is.
mean? Same thing with Ronaldo, right? I mean, okay. So, and Bryson too. Like Bryson talked about how like the Kangen water has given him an edge, you
Yeah.
know, in his training and in his fitness and in his golf and everything else. So that was the other thing too. Like that was the interesting part. Like I had seen him, he made a post like 4 years ago,
Hmm.
and I didn't think, and it's so funny. Like you don't think anything of it. Right. And he's literally with the machine. And he's like, like he's like, oh, look, like, right. And I didn't think anything of it. Right. Because I never gave hydration that much thought. Right. Because even when you talk to nutritionists, right, what do they tell you? They focus on what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They focus on like the stuff you put in your body, like whether it's like soap or this or that or whatever. Right. But they never say, and then they just say drink water. Right. They never,
They're never getting any detail.
yeah, they never hit like, no, this is the water you need to drink. Like, and it doesn't matter. Personal trainers too. Personal trainers like make sure you hydrate, but they have no clue. Like they just it's the most overlooked part of nutrition and health and wellness is hydration. It literally is the most overlooked part, which is crazy because it's the most important part of health and wellness, right? So but yeah, Bryson has it. So yeah, I feel like now, hopefully, knock on wood, that there's going to be this concerted kind of movement, with like kind of make America healthy again. Like I think RFK is great at that, and I'm hoping that he gets confirmed and he's I mean like the patches that I use, the LifeWave patches that I use, he uses as well, and he's seen a difference with his workouts and stuff like that.
But what
You
are
know,
they?
say again.
What are the patches?
So the
Tell a
patches
little about
are
that.
from a company called LifeWave. They're photobiomodulation patches. And mind you, if you go to my Instagram or you go to my Facebook, which are both public, I don't have it set to private or anything else. You go to my link tree, everything is there, right? From Live Good to the For Wellness stuff to the hostage tape to the water to whatever. And you can contact me. I mean, anybody. I mean, I don't care. I answer everybody. But the interesting part is so the patches. So he's been wearing them. Because my viewpoint when it comes to, so this is another thing, like people take peptides and they take TRT, right? And I always caution people against it. Okay. And the reason I do is if your body produces it, okay, I caution you against ingesting it externally or injecting it externally. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The reason because is if your body's producing lower testosterone or less testosterone, there's a reason, right? Because you're nutrient deficient across the board. And what happens is if you inject it, okay, then it signals to your body it doesn't have to make it anymore. And then what happens is now you're in this loop where now you don't have a choice because now if you stop taking it, your body's not going to start
Yeah,
producing
your
it the way
body
it should.
forgets how to do it.
So I look for products that help you naturally. Okay, and peptides are one of those, right? So the LifeWave patches, what they do is you just, you can see like, it's just a little sticker like the size of a Band-Aid. It's nothing, right? And I put it on, you put it on for 12 hours. And then take it off for 12 hours. That's it. It's very simple. And then the next day, put a new one on for 12 hours. It's nothing, right? What it does is it uses your body. Your body does give off near infrared light. I mean, it does, right? So it directs a specific wavelength back into your body, like a mirror. Okay. There's no ingredients. It's just like a crystal lattice work in the pad. And what that does is it stimulates a specific peptide, a specific copper peptide, right? Or depending on the patch, could be epithalmin peptide or whatever. But each one does different things, right? So the GHK copper peptide is great for a lot of things. It's great for anti-aging. It's great for repairing and regenerating cellular on a tissue on a cellular level. The AHK copper peptide is great for helping rebuild muscle and blood flow and stuff like that. So I do wear a couple of different ones, but again, they're all holistic. They're all great. They're all natural. If you're an athlete in college, you can wear them. It'll help your performance and you don't have to worry about drug tests or anything like that. Because again, there's nothing that's getting absorbed through your skin. But again, I like it because what it does is it's helping to repair your body and your cells to stimulate them to make the peptide. Okay. You're not getting it from from an external source, right? And that really, to me, is a huge, is a huge thing, right? Even when you're talking about stem cells and stuff like that, like people, it's a huge topic right now. Some people go for stem cell treatment, they get it injected. I'm not a fan of that. Aside from the cost, it's only like 30% effective. And if you do it, you have to continually do it. It's not helping your body make stem cell production or anything like that. Whereas like something like fasting actually does help your body produce stem cells. Like it's crazy. So, I mean, I would rather do it naturally and let my body do it than have to take it externally, right? Now for nutrients, that's different. Your body doesn't like produce magnesium, right? Needs it, doesn't produce it, right?
Right.
So, stuff like that. So, that's where I want to uptake nutrients to help that deficiency. But what they're finding is what's interesting is that a lot of diseases, the two most common factors, and literally across the board for 99% of diseases, the two most common factors are inflammation and nutrient deficiency, hands down. And we talked about it before with the water, but it's the same thing with the food, right? Monocrop farming versus like regenerative farming,
World of
completely
difference.
different,
Yeah, world
right?
of
So
difference.
regenerative farming, you're getting nutrients, right? Monocropping, it's stripping nutrients from the soil. And that, and that's a big thing, like, I mean, I saw this on my buddy's page the other day, but like hot take, or a little tip, if you go to a farmer's market, there should not be any PLU stickers on the fruit or on the vegetables at a farmer's market. If you go to a market and you see a PLU sticker on there that is not from a farmer's market or whatever, that is the same shit that is going to Walmart and going to
Mm-hmm.
wherever. Okay. When you go to a true farmer's market and you're getting it directly from the farmer, none of those PLU stickers are on there. Why? Because you're getting it direct. That's the thing. So if you do go to a market, an open air market or a farmer's market or anything like that, and you see a PLU sticker on the produce, nope.
No bueno.
So, these are just little things. And, you know, the thing is, once you start recognizing it and once your eyes are open to it, right, you never look at things the same way again.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I go to the supermarket now, I mean, I don't get any meat really from the supermarket. I barely get any veggies or fruit from the supermarket. Most of that stuff, like I said, I'm fortunate. We have a farm here that they sell only stuff that they grow. I have ranchers that I get meat from and stuff like that. And then I have, you have other animals and whatever else. So, I probably will add rabbits soon for the protein. Rabbits are great,
Mm-hmm.
protein wise. But it's interesting. Like, and I said this to my buddy. I said, if you have one aisle, okay, and again, this is just thinking about it. If you have one aisle in a supermarket that is health food, one, that's it. There's one aisle. What is the rest of the store? What's
It's
the rest
all
of the
it's all
store?
it's all processed. There's
Horrible, horrible.
yeah.
So right, so that's the thing. Like, and like you don't realize, but like you're just going by, and you're like, and I literally now, man, I walk into the supermarket, man, and it's so funny. It's like I walk in, I'm like poison, shit, poison, shit. Like my wife makes homemade ketchup, mayo, all that stuff because she does it, she's great at it. So everything she makes is like kind of like from scratch, but it's like it's so funny to me. Like I'm looking at it, and I look at the stuff now, and I'm like, man,
It's so hard once you do that. Once you start making your own stuff, it's so hard to go back. You're like, how the hell did I ever eat this shit?
yeah, how did I eat this? Or even when we go out to eat, like we go out to eat, and I'm like, and I'll go, like we'll go out to like let's say get steak or something like that, and I tell them, I go, do you have, I just want the steak and butter, like that's it. Can you just put the butter in a pan and cook the steak, like that's it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like and it's amazing how hard that is for people. And I don't use any seed oils. The only thing I use to cook with is beef tallow, pretty much, and butter. That's about it. That's the only thing I use. Olive oil, even though we could use olive oil to cook with, it's good to cook with. The whole oxidation of olive oil is such bullshit, but that's another kind of thing. But I use olive oil more just for like salads and other stuff. I'm Greek, so we love like that stuff. To make dipping for bread and stuff like that. Or if I'm roasting garlic or
Yeah, it's great for
tomatoes or
me.
so.
I
Yeah.
mean, I got a pellet grill right before COVID,
Oh,
and
nice.
once I got cooking on that thing, it's like I can't go to my girlfriend and I will go out. We'll go out to dinner at some nice restaurant, $150 or whatever it is. I'm like, why did I do that? I could have went to the farmer's market, got a steak that's way better, cooked it myself, would have come out better, and it tastes better, it's nutrient dense, and I just dropped 150, and I get so pissed off.
Well, people ask me about that with the, because I get like a full cow every year and stuff like that, right? So, I eat the bone marrow. I eat, like I said, I eat the liver. I eat the heart. It's just kind of, I eat nose to tail.
Mm-hmm.
But people ask me, they go, you get a whole cow. And I go, yeah. I said, well, it lasts my wife and I a year at least, but I eat a lot of meat. But I go, but also, I said, it costs me with processing right about 4.5 to 4.75 a pound.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, where can you can't get most places, you can't get chopped meat for that.
No, it's what is it, like $7 a pound for ground
I
beef?
maybe I mean honestly I don't know because I haven't looked in so long. I have no clue, right? But like when we do go to like places like like Wegmans and stuff like that, and I'm seeing like like $30 a pound for steak or or $25 a pound for steak or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, I got Delmonico's fucking sitting there ribeyes, and it was $4.50 a pound. Like I'm like, yeah, I'm in, brisket, all that stuff. Like I just sit there and and again, you don't realize it because and I guess if I look back on it, I probably should have seen some of the signs. Like so like in like 2019, 2020, before we moved up here, I used to get really bad cluster headaches like 4 times a week, you
Wow,
know. So they're
that's
like they go
crazy.
like yeah, they're like behind like your eye socket, like and it's like one eye or the other where like I'd be walking around with like a freaking eye patch thinking I'm like a fucking pirate or something like that, and like but it's I used to get those like 4 times a week being in the city, living in the city, right? And ever since coming out here and buying the homestead and doing this and doing that, man, I mean, I haven't taken a leave or aspirin or any, or I shouldn't say aspirin. I haven't taken like a leave or Advil, like naproxen, ibuprofen, any of that stuff in 3 years, maybe.
That's awesome.
You know, I do the baby aspirin thing. I mean, that's just kind of, and again, there's medical research on it. You can look it up on like PubMed and all that shit and everything else. But yeah, I haven't had to take like that stuff. Really, I mean, I have dabbled with like, CBD oil occasionally. Not for pain or anything like that, but like just because you know, I mean, I have 4 businesses, right? Like you said, like I just, I'm running, 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 running. So there are just days where, or nights where, like my brain just, won't shut off, for lack of a better way to put it. And I try to,
Monkey brain. You got monkey brain.
be very regimented because it's not that I couldn't do with 4 hours sleep. Like I could operate on 4 hours sleep easy, but it's just not optimal. Like I try to prioritize 8 hours, and again, like, it's funny. So like even your circadian rhythms, like, and stuff like that. If it's shown now, there's a new study like you're shown like if you're awake for 2 hours or more between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 a.m., you basically you can be classified as like a shift worker, like a third shift worker.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And the impact it could have on your health and kind of stuff like that, right? So I really try to be disciplined about like I try to go to bed and be in bed asleep by right around 10 o'clock, and I'm usually up at 5, 4:35, something like that. So I try to be pretty disciplined with that. So sometimes, yeah, the CBD, I'll be like, okay. And again, there's no THCs, none, it's not getting me high,
Right.
but it's great for that. And listen, if that's what it takes for you to, to go to sleep, like I would much rather see somebody. I would much rather see somebody take like CBD oil or even smoke a little weed or something like that in terms of like instead of taking like codeine, right?
Tylenol PM.
Yeah, or like Tylenol PM, like or oxycodone, or any of like the opiates or shit like that for
Mm-hmm.
pain or whatever. Like it's not even close. You know what I mean? Like I'd much rather like I got a buddy that's like that. Like he's in pain and he'll smoke a little bit every night or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, I get it. I'm like, it helps you with the pain, helps you go to sleep, helps you recover. I'm like, great. Again, I'd much rather see that than popping a pill, man. I mean, that's like the pill popping thing, now what is it? Ozempic is like the huge one now,
Mm-hmm.
or Jardiance, or semaglutide, or all this stuff. And I'm like, man, and there was an influencer I just saw now on I can't even believe it's going to come out of my mouth on TikTok, but yeah, that was on Ozempic, and she's in her 20s, and she developed osteoporosis.
Wow. Yeah, no shit. It's pulling everything out of your system.
Like, yeah,
God,
duh. Like, like, duh. Like, what'd you think was going to happen,
amazing.
right? Or there's another one I just saw. There was another one. I forget the drug, right? And I said this to my wife last night. Like, we're watching, and I don't really watch too much TV, but like, when we do, we kind of stream it, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
amazing that there's drug commercials on streaming. That's fucking crazy to me. Okay.
Yeah. What did Rogan say? Like 80% of commercials on TV are drug companies,
Yeah.
and no matter where you are, streaming,
Which is
regular TV.
nuts to me, which is absolutely insane to me. And so anyway, so like the girl was talking, she goes, so if it was for an HIV drug or something like that. So she goes, so if you don't have HIV and you test negative for HIV, so which means you don't have it, you've never had it in your life, okay? Make sure you get with your doctor and you jump on this drug to prevent you from to make it harder for you to get. It won't prevent you from getting it. Like you could
No,
still get it.
you don't have anything wrong with you, but take this drug anyway,
Take
so
this
you don't
drug
get
and
it.
it won't stop you from getting it. It just will
Jesus
decrease
Christ.
your chances. What?
Wow. And people
And I
buy
was
into that
like,
shit.
I go like this. So she had missed it. She didn't, she wasn't really paying attention to it, right? And I go, the commercial's going to come up again, right? Because that's just what it is, right? It's like this loop, right, of like programming. And I'm like, just do me a favor when the commercial comes on again. I was like, can you please just listen and see if I got this right, okay? Because I don't believe I really heard what I heard, you know. And it was funny. It's like I just saw a meme. It was actually great. I should have reposted it, and I didn't. Remember the movie They Live
I
with?
don't know if I saw that. What was it about? I'm
Okay,
a pretty big movie guy.
if you've never seen it, I mean, you can't really admit it. Roddy Piper's in it. Okay, like probably like the only movie he's done. If you've never seen it, okay, so if you've never seen They Live, I encourage you to see the movie. It's like in the 80s. It's a phenomenal movie. And it's Roddy Piper. He plays this like guy, whatever, just this average Joe. And he puts on these glasses and it cuts through the marketing. So like the newspaper like will have a headline and then he'll put the glasses on and it'll say, obey us or whatever, right? And you see like these people, some people are human and then some people are like alien under, so like he's like, holy shit. But there's a fight scene in the movie where he's trying to get his buddy to just put the glasses on. Like he's like, just put the freaking glasses on and look, right? And he's like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to look through these freaking glasses. He's like, you're not. And they fight, right? And the memes showed them, after the fight. And he goes, the fight scene in They Live wasn't just a fight scene. It shows how hard it is to red pill someone, like, to open their eyes,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
And that meme hit so hard to me because I was like, yeah, no shit, right? So the movie They Live, if anybody out there, if you've never watched it, I encourage you to watch it. Yes, it's cheesy. It's cheesy 80s movie, but it is very apropos for the time that we live in. Like he'll put the glasses on and it'll say consume, 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 like whatever. Like it's just amazing that this came out in like the 80s. And it was John Carpenter who did it. Carpenter
Huh.
was great, right? The other thing that I encourage people to do is if you've never read the book, I encourage everybody to read the book Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. That is a phenomenal book. It's my favorite book. I've read it probably I don't know, close to 20 times. It is. I have the striker's oath when you come to my house right outside. Okay, where for those that aren't familiar, the striker's oath in the book is a quote where it says, "I swear by my life and my love of it that I will never live for the sake of another man, nor ask another man to live for mine." It is a phenomenal quote and a phenomenal book against, which was supposed to be a warning, actually, written by Ayn Rand, who escaped communism and all that stuff, written in like 1953, and it was like a warning for the dangers of
It was
like
like a wake
collectivism.
up call.
Yeah,
It was
and
like a
it's
wake
and
up call.
instead, like you read the book and you're like, we're fucking living it. It's
Yep.
insane. So all these things, like it's crazy, and it's crazy to see how, even to some degree, how it's affected the golf world. Like all this different. kind of stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's been, it's so weird. Like golf should be, in my estimation, just fun, right? Like I love like Max Homo where he's like, if you're just playing for, like you're a weekend guy or whatever, like just do what you want, man. Like, like you want to roll the ball over, you want to, drop it. Like who gives a shit?
Yeah,
Like,
you
what do
want to
you
use a
care?
belly putter, you want to use a face that doesn't conform. No one
Right.
cares.
Like who gives
Gives
a
a shit.
shit? I mean, like I use like, that's a perfect example. Like I use the crank driver, right? Because the long driver, I use crank driver. So I tell people all the time, they go, what's your favorite? What's the best driver? I said, the best driver to me for the average golfer is crank. I said, and not because for any other reason other than the fact, I said, they do make USGA legal drivers, but they do have two models that are non-conforming. So like if you're an average golfer, why wouldn't you just get a little hotter fucking
Exactly.
driver, get the 20, 30 yards and enjoy the game a little more? Like I just, it blows my mind that that's not a thing, right? Like I'm like, why do you, if you want to use a Condor S golf ball,
Well, you
that's going
talk
to
about,
give you,
yeah, you
you
talk
know,
about pulling wool over the eyes. USGA is like, well, it's not an official handicap, and you won't be able to play in your buddy's member guest if you use a crank
oh
driver
fuck off, yeah,
or use a
exactly,
rub. It's like, fuck off. I'm fucking playing golf for fun. I get out of the office 2 days a week in season for four
right?
months. I'm going to go do this, and you're going to tell me I can't do this because I might not be able to play in a member guest. Like, who's going to call someone out on a driver that's illegal if they don't
Well,
even
not
know?
just that. I mean, the USGA. I'm sorry, the USGA, man. So I call it the USGA has a war on the average golfer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, forget about the game. They have a war on the average golfer. And that's the thing. Because again, if you're an average, listen, man, I'm a pro. You want to tell me what I can and can't use, what's conforming, whatever. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, because they're trying to make the playing field as level as possible to determine who's got the most skill, right? So if you're,
Correct. But the problem is everything they do is actually detrimental. So for example, if they go through the rollback of the ball,
that'll be
okay. So let's say you're going to go through the rollback of the ball. All you're going to do is you're going to help me and you're going to hurt the average length pro.
mm-hmm.
Like you're going to make my advantage more. It's like when Tiger came up. Okay. So Tiger came up and they wanted to neutralize his advantage, right? So what they do? They grew the rough crazy high, and this is this. So there's that famous shot at Pebble, number 7, the par 5, or I think it's or 8 or whatever it was, the par 5, where he hits it over, like he's in the rough and he's got
Oh,
like
6. Yeah, he
210
hit like 7 iron
and he hit like
into
7
6.
iron in.
Yes.
But guess what? So you made the rough hard because you wanted to neutralize him, but he's the only player in the field that could hit that shot. So you actually helped him. The USGA and the golf tour, by trying to make courses harder, unknowingly actually helped Tiger become more dominant because nobody else could fucking do it, right? So it's the same thing. If you're going to make the roll back, you're going to roll the ball back. You're just increasing my advantage. If you want to truly neutralize a player like myself, okay, you need to actually go the other way. You need to make courses shorter and tighter with smaller greens and more penalty areas. Because if you're just saying like, so I played when I played with Dad, we were in near Naples, Estero, and we played Salt Leaf. Okay, public court. Now I didn't play the back tees, right? Because I played the tees with my dad. I just played the regular men's tees. Okay, so on that court, looking at it, okay, it truly is a tee, like a, position off the tee and then second shot course. So they go, we're going to give you a landing area. Okay. We're going to give you a landing area that's like 40 yards wide or 50 yards wide.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only going to be for 30 yards or 40 yards. Okay. Whatever it is. Now, if you decide to go past that, right, you're going to be hitting into this 20-yard wide area. But guess what? You have water left and hazard right.
Yeah, you got all the trouble.
Good fucking luck.
Yeah, good luck. Gamble.
So
Risk jumps.
right. So it neutralized any advantage I had. So did I hit a lot of 3 woods that day? Yes. Did I hit a lot of 3 irons and 5 irons? Yes. I hit, I was taking 4 iron off the tee at times, right? Because that neutralized my advantage and left me. Did I have a lot of wedges in? Yeah. But okay. But whatever I made or whatever I scored, I had to make that way. I had to make with a 9 iron in my hand, an 8 iron, a wedge. I couldn't make it just by driving it up by the green and then, getting up and down with a flip wedge.
I heard Grove 23 is very similar. That
Yeah,
I haven't been. I have a bunch of friends that have been there. They said Michael built this. He loves to gamble. I think Ricky said he can't beat him there because
right,
he's getting his stroke, and they're basically playing from the same spot, and he's giving Michael a stroke
right. And
every time
that's
on the course.
see, and that's the thing. So like to me, that's a great course. You just neutralized my advantage, right? So that's how you neutralize a guy like me. Okay. That's how you neutralize a guy that can fly at 330. That's how you neutralize a guy that can, or 340 or 350. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I mean, that was the thing. Like there was one hole there where I legitimately could take drive. Okay. And I didn't because I was worried that if it was slightly downwind and was playing a little firm, and I was like, if I really hit this good, and I was swinging good that day, like I said, and I said, if I hit this good, this might run out. Like my dad was like, "You're seriously thinking about not hitting this?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I said the run out is 360, 370." I said, "Yeah, like I legit could run this through the fair."
Mhm.
And I ended up hitting 3 wood, and I hit that 320, and I was like, it just put me in perfect position anyway. But I was like, okay, well, whatever. But that was the thing. Like, so the USGA has this war on the average golfer. Like, the average golfer, the rule book for the average golfer should be 2 pages. Like, it shouldn't be a book. It should be like, here's like, like the NCAA hard card. Like,
Uh-huh.
here it is. It should just be a pamphlet on one side and the other, and that's it. That should be the rule book for the average golfer. Okay. Again, you want to force me to hit out of a divot, even though I think that should be ground under repair. Fine. You want to force me to take stroke and distance from out of bounds, even though I think that's stupid. Fine. You want to take the low hanging fruit of like you can't anchor a putter, but you really can. So you can't anchor the putter here, like your fist can't touch your chest. But if your wrist touches your chest, that's okay.
Yeah, you're good. It makes
I mean,
zero sense. What do you expect when
you
it's like
like
Congress? Everything's written by a bunch of attorneys who are completely detached from the reality of,
right.
of, of the of the
Exactly.
society or the game.
Exactly. And that's the thing. But like for the average golfer, man, I mean, I remember working at Rock Hill under Mike Jacobs, and I'll never forget it. We had a men's club that was there every Saturday, right? Like, okay. And this is when the putter ban came out, right? So the guy comes into the office, and I'm there at like, 7 a.m. or whatever it was, and they're getting ready to go out, and he's fuming. He's like, God damn, you're USGA, and I'm like, what are you droning on about, bro? Like, I'm like on my first cup of coffee. Like, I don't have like the headspace for this right now. Like, what the fuck is the problem? Is well, USGA. I'm like, okay. I said, first off, I said, I find it very strange that that's the line that pushed you over the edge. And he's like, what's that supposed to mean? I'm like, I've watched you guys. I was like, you pick and choose what rules you want to play. Like, you have a leaf rule, or I said, like the first hole, the range is out of bounds left. I've watched you guys hit it down the left side, okay, not hit another one, go down there, find the ball out of bounds, and then drop it. Like,
You
okay,
can't, yeah, pick and choose.
you're
It's
picking
like,
choosing what rules you want, which is fine because you're a men's club. You can do whatever you want. I said, but if you really want, we'll just write up a local rule for your men's club that you can use the putter. And he's like, we can do that. I'm like, yeah. I'm like,
you're
but
doing it already.
well, that's what I'm saying. I said, but I said, you're doing it already, but like, because you're like, well, if we all agree that like, the ball was here and, because you're in New York, you know what I mean? You're in Long Island, like at that point, right? There's leaves. Like, okay, if I hit it here and you can't, okay, I mean, whatever. So you're sitting there, you're breaking the rules as it is, and you're picking and choosing. But like that specific rule is what drove you over the goddamn edge.
Mm.
That, like nothing else, but that. That is what got you in our office at 7:30, throwing a freaking fit. Like I go, bro, come on, man. But yeah, the USGA needs to kind of really take a hard look. I know some of the guys, at the USGA, like, we're just trying to protect the game. And I'm like, the fuck you are.
No, they're
Okay.
reactionary. If they were trying to protect the game, they'd be proactive and say, "No,
Right.
we're,
I'm
we're,
like,
we're
you've
getting
never
ahead of
been
this."
proactive about anything.
No.
I said, you've only been reactive. I said, and it's just, I said, and everything is low hanging fruit. Everything. like everything from the broom putter to now the ball to this to that. Like it's just low hanging fruit. Like you wanted to outlaw again the definition, right? You talk about being reactive. You outlawed a club or a style of putting more than 20 years after it's been in use.
Exactly. What research did you need? Are you kind of worried about making a decision?
Like, how long did it take you to come? Well, we needed more data. You needed data for 25 freaking years? I mean, you know, listen, it was like that post, the post that I made, the aim point
Oh,
post,
the aim point. My God.
right? So the aim point post, right? And again, this is the so I had another post. I had a longer post that went viral that had like like a 500,000 views. And I even put this is why I can't deal with people sometimes. I said not my post. I put it in big like capitals with like the sirens around it, right? And then the post said, do you think this is anchoring? This is this because you could see in the video Longer is putting, and again his hand is not against his chest,
Yes, I
but his
remember that. I saw
wrist
that post.
is.
Yes.
So is that still anchoring? Okay. So, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Obviously, the officials have seen it. I go, okay, but it's pretty easy to show the officials one thing and then do something else in competition. Now, I had Mark Hensby, who played the Champions Tour and who's played against Longer, literally comments on my post, and he goes, "You're right. We do have a concern about this. Not just me, other players do. We have said something to officials like, here it is. So here's a PGA Tour Champions player commenting on my post, and people are like, you think you know better than Champions Tour? You think you know better than that? I'm like, it's not my post. Like, I said, this was just for discussion. Okay. I thought it was interesting for discussion. I don't really care one way or the other. I've met Longer twice. Okay. Where I've had interactions with him, and it wasn't even really with golf because it was when I was coaching college. His kid was on another school and was paired with one of my guys. So I just, I was with him the whole day, and that was it. So, the guy is a really nice guy. The guy is a super smart guy. The guy is an engaging guy. I have literally nothing but respect for the guy. I just thought it was a cool freaking discussion piece. And people were like, oh, yeah, so another Karen. I'm like, I'm not the one that made the fucking post. I'm like,
No,
read the
I
post.
thought Hensby's argument was kind of one side, and I think EA Tisler's was kind of the other side. But it was very, very well done, both of their responses. But the responses they were getting from some of the peanut gallery
People, right,
and I
were
messaged guys
insane.
like, this is why golf is still in the dark ages right here. 90% of the people on here should not ever be allowed to comment on anything.
Right? It was like some of the responses that they were getting. I was like, holy shit. And then the aim point one almost ties into what you were talking about with, sheer did it go maybe too like did people in the pursuit of using aim point and trying to read the putts and this and this and this, because aim point is valid. Like, I'm not saying it's not, I whatever, but like, I've used it with students. Like, I get it, but it's like, is it maybe hurting people's, putting stroke or stats because maybe they're so worried or hyper focused on aim point, and the read that maybe, just the art of like rolling the ball. Okay. Maybe it just, it kind of skewed that a little bit. Okay. Like at the PGA show, like, so two of the things that I wanted to see. Okay. Well, actually three. So one was Makefield putters. The other one was Astral putters, because Astral putters fascinates the hell out of me. Okay. Two putting company. Well, actually three. Makefield does as well, but the two putter companies right now that fascinate the ever loving crap out of me. One is Astral putters, ASTRAL. Okay. And it's totally modular system. So you pick your head, right? There's three possible inserts. You have that copper, brass, or stainless. Now, the way the head works is you put the lie plug in there. So they have different lies, anywhere from 66 degrees to 74 degrees. Okay. Then you have three different hosels. Each hosel has 20 different configurations.
Jesus.
So you have up to 60 different offsets or onsets or whatever so that it suits your eye. Okay. I was like, okay, this is fucking fascinating. because shit. Like because since it's not going to speed, you're not swinging it at like 100 miles an hour. If you have 2 or 3 screws in there and they're tightened down, it doesn't matter. It still feels like a solid club. So I go, man, that is wild. I go, nobody thought about that. I said, that is new. Then I saw the guy. They didn't have a booth, but I saw the guy from Spoiler Golf.
Mm-hmm.
So Spoiler Golf is a putter that looks like a spoiler with zero loft, and the leading edge is like almost like the leading edge of a wedge. So I got to talk to him, and we were walking around the show, and he goes, "Well, that's how I kind of got the idea. My dad, I'd go play with my dad all the time, and inevitably, at some point, he would just get lazy during the round, not want to walk back to the cart, and just putt with his wedge, and he'd roll it really good. So I made a putter that had a wedge leading edge, essentially, right? So 0 degrees of loft. And he's showing hard data like on Quintic and stuff like that, like hard data that it actually gets the ball rolling faster than anything on the ball. So I go, shit, that's interesting.
I've been telling people zero loft is, so long as you don't have a deep forward press, zero
Yeah,
loft at impact is much better than lift. I'd never bought into the idea, and I spent a lot of time with putting. As you know, I've spent a fair amount of time with Jeff Mangum, just talking ideas, but I never bought into the idea that bullshit. Well, it has to lift it out of the whole depression it's in. I mean, lift it out of what depression? The grass is almost cut down to the ground at the tour level.
right. And that's and agreed, because I sit there like, and just for reference, like my putter gamers were always like 1 degree of loft.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's interesting, but I'm like, this is interesting. Like these couple of companies, like I'm like, that just blows my freaking mind, right? I was like, I didn't get a chance to roll the spoiler because he didn't have a booth. So I didn't, but he's like, well, I'll send you one. I said, okay. I said, I mean, if you want, that's great. I don't want you to put you out, but I'm fascinated by this, right? Same thing with the Astro putters. Like the guys were like, let's talk after Pebble Beach because we're going to be at Pebble Beach and then we'll talk after. And I said, yeah, great. Because again, that blows my mind. And I think what got me thinking about it was because I had made the post where I'm creating my own irons. That was the other thing, right? So, which that was also cool too, because they didn't have a booth, but I got to talk to Chad from Forward Golf.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about, because on his irons and his fittings, he has 3 different bounce options for irons: low, mid, and high. And he has offset and onset.
On irons.
Okay. So I'm like, Chad, we got to talk, because like I don't like any offset in my irons. I want 0 offset, and I like a little bit of onset on my wedges.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, this blows my mind, because I can't talk to, because no major manufacturer I can't talk to about this, because they're like, no, you don't understand golf. I'm like, I do. I'm like, I guarantee I probably understand physics better than you do. Okay. Like, I'm not trying to be that guy, but like, I can almost guarantee, aside from your engineers, possibly, okay, that are like literally making the clubs, I probably know physics better than you. So when we're talking about like CG and all this stuff, and I'm like, Chad, we got to talk, because I am so fascinated by how the onset performed, and stuff like that. And I'm like, and what he's doing in the fitting world with iron is amazing, And the fact that now I can make my own irons, I actually have an R&D and CAD design meeting next week with it, which we're actually also possibly tinkering with a beginner set iron also. But I was like, man, this is going to be fun, right? Because I have certain things I know I want to see in my irons and stuff like that. So I'm like, this is going to be cool, right? So the putter thing fascinates me. I mean, I was a master fitter for Edel for 5 years. So of course it's going to fascinate me. Like I said, I really can't wait to see, like that got me kind of going at the show. I can't wait to see how it's going to kind of play out. Like I really seriously can, and I'm curious if both guys send me samples, I'm curious to see how they're going to stack up, and roll and whatever else, and see what's what. But they were really cool. I don't know how but that was, yeah, they were actually really fucking cool. Those guys were.
I'm getting ready to do a video for the YouTube page because I haven't done one in so long. I got to get back on that about club design, and I talked to a couple engineers this week about this. And I say, when I pull clubs apart, when I'm going to build some of these clubs, I noticed this in the older clubs, and I'm noticing it less in the newer clubs, in that the bottom, the tip of the shaft used to almost always go all the way to the sweet spot or the sweet spot scoring line on an iron or a driver
Correct.
or a fairway, etc. I
Right.
said modern clubs, it's lifted higher. So I said, and that so what happens is, for anybody out there listening, now you've got too much weight below the tip of the shaft as it's
Correct.
put into the hosel. Now you've got more toe droop and you've got more weight, which means the club toe is going to lag behind.
Right.
And all these the engineers like, well, yeah, we put more weight in the toe. I said, so you're saying that the more weight's going to close it faster. Yeah. I said, the toe's already lagging. What makes you think that it's going to catch up faster for most amateur golfers?
Right.
And they're looking at me like, who the hell are you? I
Yeah.
said, I'm not trying to say I know more than you, but I'm saying this is a design flaw. And most of them said it was due to aesthetics feedback they got from
Bullshit. I
the
call
engineers
bullshit
and the
on that.
club designer. Yeah. The engineers and the club designer did not agree, but the club designers evidently won out with, the brass at various companies because that's what's being produced. And it's not function. It might look better, but you're losing functionality.
But it's not looking better. Here's the thing. You're going to tell me, let's say take an iron, okay? So you're going to tell me that not boring the head, okay? Not boring the head, let's say half inch,
Mm-hmm.
okay? All right? So you're telling me that a part of the shaft that I can't see that is going to go into the club head because you bored down further, okay, is an aesthetic choice? You can't even see it.
Well, it came into the way that they had to do with some of the old ones, but what they were the bigger problem they had was when they started adjusting loss. Most people didn't realize it. Like you get a 23-year-old assistant doesn't know how to bend clubs, right? They were the shaft was going in so far into the hosel, they were bending the shaft, they were crimping the shaft and the bend them.
That's different.
So you adjusted a whole industry because you had a bunch of people who didn't know how to adjust clubs that were
Right.
screwing shit up. So
Right.
it's like, oh man, it's
And that's
amazing how
and
somebody
but
can
here's
so
the
much
thing.
made.
That's different though. See, at least that explanation, okay? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
no matter if it's stupid or not, but that explanation, fair enough, okay? But don't give me the bullshit of aesthetics because that's fun because you can't see it. Like you literally, it's invisible. You're not seeing it, okay?
Right.
I mean, now if you want to say you shorten the hosel, like physically shorten the hosel, okay, versus the longer one for aesthetics, that I understand. But to say the board depth, right? The board
Mm-hmm.
depth is bullshit because you're telling me you didn't go as far because that's aesthetics. That's horseshit. Okay, like sorry, that's just. But see, Wilson though, I'll give him this on their staff design blades. Now are bore through. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they're bore throughs, or at least almost bore through, I should say. You know, because you see the plug, but you don't see the ring of the shaft, but it's almost bore.
Like the old ones going way back, like the what was it?
Yeah,
Dyna, what the hell? Dyna
Dyna power.
Power? Yeah, with the
Yep.
with the
I
red
mean,
plug in the bottom.
right. And I was thinking about that even with my irons. Like I was wondering, I was like, do I want to do bore through shafts? It's a little bit of a throwback, because I even maybe want to dabble because, and I don't know if I can do this because, irons are a different breed than woods, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see if I could make a fairway wood, almost like the old Titleist PT, but slightly bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But where it's glued, right? Because the thing is this, like as somebody that's a high speed player, I hate adjustable clubs because inevitably that's going to shear, especially for a guy like me that's swinging the club as fast as I do and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to come loose and it's going to come whatever, right? I like the solid glue, like mechanical, just that's what I want. And I can't get it. Can't get it anymore. Can't get it in a hybrid. Can't get it in a fairwood. Can't get, which actually I think hybrids are just a waste of a club. Like, and the reason why I say that is because like 7 woods and 9 woods, I think are much more effective and utilitarian than hybrid. You know what I mean? I think they're easier to hit. I think the flights are better. I think it's much easier to hit a 7 wood and a 9 wood out of harsher lies than it is a hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just is because of the design of the club. So, like,
Yeah, they went opposite on the hybrids. They put all the weight out on the toe. But you know what they also do? They also make them so long. And everyone that comes to me that says I can't hit this hybrid on measure, I said it should, in theory, unless you're going from steel to graphite, be the equivalent of the iron length that it's replacing.
correct.
And as you get, and then they say there's no way. And then I'll okay grip down an inch and a half, 2 inches, and they'll start hitting. I'm like, I can't believe it.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think like the 7 wood, the 9 wood, I think, needs to make a bigger comeback, you know.
Seems to be. I think it is.
I think it is too, and which I love seeing because like I said, I hate hybrids. Okay, so even though it did save my ass first tee shot on a big break, I do hate hybrids. And the only reason the hybrid was actually in my bag at the time was because Adams was one of the sponsors. They sponsored
Hmm.
the show, right? And that's actually where I kind of got my disdain for hybrids a little bit because the leading edge was much straighter and the sole was much straighter and flatter. That from the fairway, okay, fair enough, maybe it was okay, but like out of rough and stuff like that, it was so much harder to hit. And then when I put this like a 7 wood in, where it had that real concave or convex kind of
The
whatever.
camber on the bottom.
Yeah, the camber on the bottom. It butter, man. It went right through the rough like butter. I was like, yeah, this is like awesome. So, I think that's where kind of like my first where I first started being like, okay, hybrids suck kind of a thing. I think amateurs, and I tell my dad this, like I've put him into woods more than hybrids, and he hits them better. I just think they're better, man. I don't know. I mean, but golf club design fascinates me, man, and why these companies make the choices they make at certain times and stuff like that. And ironically, it was funny, and I didn't think about this, but like, and this is what got me wanting to design my own irons. So I was playing the TaylorMades, the P730s, and they're still in the bag, right? So they're like whatever, like 6 years old, 7 years old, right?
Hmm.
Sub 70 are great irons. They're great clubs. And I did get a set of sub 70s and I hit them good, but I never hit them quite as good as I hit the TaylorMades. And I was always wondering why, right? And it
Hmm.
never dawned on me until I was talking to Chad at Forward Golf because the sub 70s are a higher bounce sole and the TaylorMades are a lower bounce sole. And he goes, so it's no, he goes, that for a player like you, he goes, yeah, he goes, you're going to hit those Taylors like because it's lower bounce, you're gonna hit them so much better, strike wise. He goes, you're not fighting the turf, you're not fighting the soul. And I said, I never thought of that, and that's kind of what got me wanting to, design some new irons and stuff like that because I just have a look that I want, and I know configuration that I want, and I'm curious to see how it's going to play out. I really can't wait to start testing these things. Like once we start making them and seeing them come alive and testing them and stuff, it's going to be really fun actually to see how.
Yeah, it sounds very cool to be able to. And when you design it, what they do is, are they customization that when you work with them? So if a golfer listen to this, they pull them up, they want to get a new set of irons, that they will make a set of heads based off what their aesthetics look like, or do they have a, let's say there's 3 or 4 styles and they can modify those to what
Yeah,
somebody
we're
would
gonna
want?
do it. We're probably gonna do it where it'll be a couple different styles where they can, so it'll be like they'll do it on the CNC first or whatever they're gonna
Hmm.
do, and then everything after that is gonna be hand ground, and done. So be able to play with either different bounce options if somebody wants it, or different a little different heel configuration or something like that or whatever. Like we can. I think I'm gonna do more of a muscle back band kind of style. A little throwback to the older kind of muscle back irons. Where it looked like it had like a like a strap, like a like in the back, like
Hmm.
a muscle, like a little bit.
You're gonna do like a straight line, like the Wilson was it MP9s or MP11s, going way back to the '80s. You're gonna
Yeah,
do
it's
a
gonna be
muscle
like
like
well,
this.
yeah, it's gonna be like progressive. So like like the wedges or the 9 iron, 8 iron are gonna have it a little higher,
Hmm.
kind of going a little higher across the top. Whereas like the 3 irons are going to be closer to the sole and give it to where it's going to launch it a little better, to play with the CG a little bit, and also the gram weighting and stuff like that. But I think it's going to come out really cool. I want to do a little more of a square toe, like a square kind of
Hmm.
look. I do want a little more of a square sole also. I don't want as big of like a rounded or V sole. I want kind of a much crisper, kind of sharper leading edge. You know,
When you get on the sole, especially where you are in New York, where you got the softer conditions, having like 1 degree, and you would never see it from the top looking
no,
down, but 1 degree shaved off that leading edge, which makes it look just like it's barely has a roundness to it. The turf interaction is like goes from, okay, it feels good most of the time, and then you take that 1 degree off. And it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is like amazing.
Yeah, I think just overdoing it is like my sub 70s. I think it's like it's there's so much relief where it's like 4 degrees or something like that,
Hmm.
and it's like man, it's too much.
Too
I think
much.
I think there needs to be a balance of that.
Jason's great. He was on
He
some
is
sub
like,
70.
and I love his clubs.
He came on like 3 days after his knee replacement.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I mean, his face was getting red, and I'm like, dude, you got to go. He's like, yeah, I probably need to go. And we burned through hour 45. And I'm like, go ahead, man, I get it. Thanks for grinding through.
Yeah,
But I'm always thankful that he came on right after his knee replacement. It might have been a week after.
and his stuff is good. Like I have their forward. Their forward is great, and it's glued
Mm-hmm.
in. Their forward is phenomenal. Their fairway woods are great. Their drivers. I mean, they do make solid clubs. I'm not saying they don't. I just could not figure out why I was having such a difference. In like turf interaction. Same specs as my Taylor, same everything. Like I just could not figure out what the difference was, and the only difference is literally the sole. Because even though the Taylors look shorter because of the finish,
Mm-hmm.
because my sub 70s are raw, they're not. So like even the head size is like really similar. Just it was the only thing was the sole, because like when I busted the Taylors out going down to Florida, and I used the sub 70s as much as I could to try to really, get the feel.
And it's been ground off, or it's too much bounce on there.
Too much ground off. Like when you look, there's
Oh,
too
okay,
much
so
relief.
yeah,
Like I don't
nothing
have
to
one
do
of the
there.
irons with me. I have here's my TaylorMade, but so if this is like the sole, like from here to here, there's like a half moon kind of
Mm-hmm.
grind, that's so much relief that I think it's too much, for me anyway. Not for most players. I think it probably does benefit most players, especially like the average golfer. But I think for like a player like me, I think it's not as good. You know what I mean? Like the strike wasn't as crisp.
So it's flatter. It doesn't have as much camber on the bottom,
It has the
or it has
TaylorMades are
more.
flatter. Yeah, the TaylorMades
Oh,
are flatter. Yeah, so the TaylorMades, there's nowhere near as much camber, nowhere near as much roll or any of that stuff. And I, like I said, like I smoked those, like I nipped those so good. Like
mm-hmm.
I hit like one of my TaylorMades, man. I was like 130 or something like that, or 140 out, and it was into like a really steep wind. Like really like a 15-mile-an-hour wind or something like that. And I was like, oh shit. And I grabbed my 9 iron. I was like, watch this. I'm gonna hit a little like Lee Trevino burner in there. My dad's like, what? And this thing was like almost outside my back foot, man. I nipped this thing so good. It didn't get more than maybe like head height. I mean, it got like 7 feet, 8 feet off the ground, man. It wasn't anything like whatever. And this thing hit the front of the green, took one hop past that pin, right? And this thing zipped back like 12 feet to like, and my dad was like, what the fuck was that? And I was like, yeah, I was like, how do you know about that shot? I'm like,
Killing
there's a little Lee Trevino burner in there. And he was like, oh,
killing
I mean,
pygmies at 100 yards.
yeah, like my stance was open, like probably 20 degrees to the target. You know what I mean? The ball was so far back. I mean, it was literally it was almost outside my back foot, and I just hit this little burner in there. And he was like, what the fuck was that? He was like, shit. Because the thing is, I knew I was going down there. I only took half a bag with me. I only took 7 irons with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was it. I took 7 irons, a wedge, a putter, and that was like I didn't take much. And I'm sitting there, and he's like, "What are you gonna do?" I said, "I'll figure it out. I can make shots," and that's what I did. And same thing coming out of the dormant rough. I took my 60, and I played it back. I had it up and down, and I chopped down on it, and the ball popped up. The green was slightly above my feet, but the ball didn't it got maybe 3 inches higher than what the green was, right? And it just skidded like it was like, you could see it, and then it got to the hole and it just like pulled the string and just yanked to like, like that, where I got up and down. He was like, that's a nifty shot. I was like, yeah. I was like, what do you know about that shot? I'm like, yeah. He's like, he's like, and that's why I said like that's where, kind of feeling better kind of came in, because he's like, I haven't seen you pull shots like this in like fucking years, man. He goes, I have not seen you manipulate and hit different shots like that in years. And I'm like, yeah, it feels good. I'm like, it feels good to be able to do it because I couldn't do it before. My body just wouldn't let me do it, you
Yeah,
know?
it's a good feeling to be able
Oh
to
my
do
God. But it
that.
was so funny, man. He's like, I wish I would have recorded some of this. I said, it's okay. I was like, it's fine. I hit same thing with my 3-wood, man. I have a 3-wood in the bag right now. That's my Wilson F5 from like 10 years ago,
Hmm.
fairway wood. And same thing. I hit a huge, we're into the wind. I hit a knockdown where, again, ball didn't get more than, 10 feet off the ground, and it was like a bullet that went like 280, like 270. Like it was like, right. And then I had one where it was downwind and I hit this towering, like, 3-wood, slightly downwind. I cut it like probably about 16, 17 yards. You know what I mean? And it just was like, it was as high as you would hit a sand wedge. I hit this thing was like
Nice.
towering, you know? And same thing, I played that almost outside my front foot and just hit this towering cut. And he's like, and he goes, man, I haven't watched you do this in ages, And I was like, yeah. I go, man, because I couldn't do it before.
Hmm.
And just being able to manipulate shots like that, man, was so fun. Like it
Very
was
cool.
just so fun. And
Great feeling.
that's what I think golfers should do. Like even the average golfer, man, like the average golfer should play around with different flights and different shots. You know what I mean? Like I don't even think. I was in between clubs. I only had 2 shots all day. I only had 2 shots all day where it was a full stock swing.
Hmm.
Okay. And it was 2 9 irons. One was on a par 5 and it was a stock swing. It was 100, I had 172 yards to the pin. It was perfect. Wind was coming out of the right. So it was a little right to left. Pin was back right, but I was so confident in the shot that I started at the right edge of the green and it just floated in there to like 6 feet. And I was like, okay. And then the other one was a front left pin, and it was the same. It was a 9 iron. I had it up over a tree, and I had 178 to the hole, and it was slightly downwind, same wind, kind of down out of the right, and I just, hit a really high 9 iron up over that just bam and feathered it in there at about 10 feet. And those were like the only 2 stock shots. Everything else was me manipulating the club or swing or ball position or something to get it to where I needed to get it to.
Yeah, I've gotten very good at not having any idea what my stock yardages are anymore because I've been stopping and starting so much with the banged up body I have. So it's like, all right, it feels like this, and maybe I got to put a little cut on it, you know, hold it in the wind or take it that whatever. So I don't even know what my
See,
because
and
you said how
that's
far do you hit your 8 iron? I was like, I don't know. It's about anywhere from there's a 12-yard gap. It
right.
just depends on if I'm able to swing that day.
See, and that's the thing, man. I used to be that way. Like I used to walk. I used to get to the golf course 2 hours early. Okay, because I had to stretch. I put Tiger Balm or BioFreeze on. I used to have to take like 2 a leave. I'd use the KT tape. I'd be walking around with a goddamn Theragun. Like it was like, when I tell you, like my body was like, I mean, and now, bro, when I was with Dad, we got to the golf course 45 minutes before our tee time, right? Paid, walked over to the range. I hit about, I don't know, 10 wedges maybe, right? And then got to the first tee and literally striped a freaking, I striped the 3 iron, 7, 8 yard draw, kind of mid flight, split the fairway and had lob wedge in. Like I was like, it wasn't even like, it was like no stress, bro. It was like no stress on my body. You know what I mean? Like it was insane. Like I was like, I haven't done that in years, man. I have not done that. It was just like, and that's what I said. My dad's like, usually you're the one that wants, because he's just playing for fun. And he's
Hmm.
like, usually you want to get to the golf course so early and you want to do this. I'm like, you're right. Normally I do. I was like, today I didn't have to. I was like,
Go
I
me.
just kind of got up there and mind you, I haven't touched a club. I haven't played 18 holes before last week since November.
Mm.
So I haven't even played. Okay. I literally have not even played for like 2 months. And I just get up there and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to stripe this and shoot a, nifty little like even par, 72 or whatever. Like it was like, it wasn't even like, it was crazy. So
That's why everybody needs to go get some Kagen.
Kangen water come, that's like I said, number one biohack. But it's funny, man. I'm telling you, it's it really is crazy, man. People don't realize like what they can do, man. I mean, look at Rogan, dude. Look at Rogan's what, 57 or
Hmm.
56 or something like that. You know what I mean? And dude, look at the shape he's in.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
You know, by the way, man, that Mel Gibson interview with Rogan was phenomenal. And they were talking about the methylene blue and the hyperbaric
Yep.
chamber, and stuff like that, man. It was awesome. But like Rogan, man, you look at him.
Have you done float tanks?
I have. I have.
They're pretty sweet.
They are. I would love, I mean, I don't have room for it. Like, it'd be cool to have one, right? It would be totally cool to have one. And I do love Epsom salt baths, as well. But the float tanks are cool. Like the sensory deprivation tanks and everything, those are cool as shit.
Well, if you've got a tank to where you're doing your ice, especially where you are, because you don't have to worry about freeze outside. You can
Right.
throw it. You can do your Epsom salt in there, and it will drop the freeze point of the
Yep.
water.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, right
you can
now,
two
I mean,
birds with one stone on that one.
yeah. I mean, right now, I haven't had to do that only because, shit, it's been cool here. Like, there's a couple nights we got down to like -5 or something like that
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So like in the morning, I'm like, you're busting up the freaking
Shit's on it.
the ice. Yeah, like you're trying to, it's like 100-gallon tank or whatever it is. You're just like trying to,
There's a dude on Instagram at B Rad something. He's up in Minnesota,
yeah,
and he'll be out there in 10 below, just in a pair of swim shorts, and busting up his shit with an axe. And some like
yeah.
he's got the steel big ones containers, and he's got the plastic Rubbermaid ones. And sometimes he starts beating on that ice, and you see plastic pieces falling out. It's like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
broke another one.
Well, yeah, because you know what it is, because like out in the sticks where we are, like like everybody's like, "What do you use?" I'm like, "All right, just go to Tractor Supply and get a fucking like a cow tank." I don't know, like I just get
That's
a.
exactly what you use.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, like I don't use anything like special. I literally just go. I literally just go and get like a tank that you would use for water for like giving cows and horses water, like a
Mm-hmm.
trough. Like that's it. Like we don't use anything else. Like it's like so. But yeah, the ice baths are great. The sensory deprivation tanks are great. Like I said, I haven't done the hyperbaric. I've had one session before, and it's not enough to. I mean, it's good, but it's not enough to. But I would love to get a hyperbaric chamber. I think that doing like 4 or 5 sessions, maybe twice a year, or every 4 months, maybe 3 times a year,
Mm-hmm.
I think would do wonders. You know,
Yeah, it's great stuff.
I mean, it's just, it's crazy to think like where you could push your body to, like, and really how it could help. You know what I mean? Because you don't think
Mm-hmm.
about it. Like, again, the natural human tendency is to curl up into that comfort zone, right? The natural human tendency is that if you're having aches and pains, it's to try to not do a lot to take the stress off. But it's actually the opposite. You actually got to do more because the more you do and the more you work it, the more your lymph system and your kidneys and stuff can work and process and get those toxins out because that's what it is. That's all it is. Like inflammation, whether you're talking about joints or whether you're talking about asthma, whether you're talking about, I mean, all this stuff is just inflammation. That's what it is, and the more you can cut
Yeah.
that out, the better you're going to be. I mean, and that's really what it comes down to. You know what I mean? Again, I think people have been brainwashed to a degree to just take that stuff for granted. Like they're like your kid has an autoimmune disease, it's like why? Or you have one. Like why? You don't think that you could treat that? You don't think that's reversible? Like, of course it is. Or like, dude, thyroid. Crazy.
Yeah.
Thyroid. Like that is like the biggest scam to me. Like, like, well, I have an aunt, like I got an aunt that, that's having issues with thyroid. It's like, why? It's like, no, you don't. Like, it's no. Like, there's T4 and there's T3, and that's what you're producing, but your thyroid only is responsible for like 20% of, that production. So where's the other 80% coming from? It's covering your body. Like, you have a mineral deficiency. Like, this is what needs to be, this is what needs to happen. Like,
It's happened slowly over time, and
yeah,
you can reverse that out by taking the right stuff.
yeah. I'm like, whether it's, niacin and riboflavin and all this stuff, whatever, but your mineral deficiency, like, this is what it is. Like, you need to, this is what needs to be put back into your system. And then your thyroid starts going normal again. Like, that's what
Mm-hmm.
it is. But the minute you start injecting and taking stuff out, like the medication and stuff, now your thyroid just shuts down until it literally beats it into submission. and now you're on medication for the rest of your life. That is insane to me.
Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
mean, it's crazy to me. I mean, I joke about it. Like I joked about it with my mom, right? Like I have a uh, cousin who was, going through some shit because of vaping and stuff like that and everything else, and his body's just, just horrible right now. And what he needs help. And I said, yeah. I said, because it's so weird. Like if only there was a person in the family that you trusted to maybe help you with some of this stuff. And I've reached out to him. I reached out to, my aunt, reached out to like my cousin. I'm like, listen, man, like I can help you. I can help your body repair. He's just popping his pills from his doctor and he's like, yeah, I'm like crazy.
Well, all someone's got to do is listen to this episode, and if they don't wake up, reach out to you for something.
Right. Yeah.
Between the water and the health stuff, like you said, the difference between wellness and health
Yeah.
industries,
I
the
never
golf.
knew, man, before getting into health and wellness, I never knew how much the health industry hated the wellness industry.
Mm-hmm. But and fuck, we knocked it out of the park. I mean, between open forum, the golfing coaching industry, golf in general, and the wellness side of the world,
Yeah.
everyone's gonna get a lot from this, or at least I hope they are.
I mean, I hope they do too. I mean, listen, that's why I love doing these interviews because I like sit there like I mean, how many people can say they've been a pro for 25 years? You know what I mean? Like not many people, right? And I've seen a lot in the golf industry. And I've seen a lot just because being in the pulse of the golf industry where again, from open forum, like listen, man, I have kids that I coached in college, okay, that are doing amazing stuff, right? Like, you know, like Matt Wilson, for example, he's over at Baltusrol, whatever. And like, Matt has done his thing with his stuff with his podcast and his buddy that he did the articles, and he's been up for like, or if he's not up for it, he will be soon for teacher of the year and a bunch of other stuff and whatever else. And to see a kid that like, came to you when he was like, 19 or 20, that you kind of coached in college. And then all of a sudden to see what he's doing in the golf business, it was like freaking awesome. I saw another kid at the show that I coached, for 4 years. And he's like one of the top fitters in the country and works with Club Champion and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, like it's awesome. Like it's awesome to see him pay that forward, and see where it goes and like see like, what these guys are doing and how they're helping people. And, that was the goal. Like that was the goal with open forum. That was the goal. Like when I coach, that's the goal when I do lessons, in golf. And, that's the goal when when you're talking about health and wellness, man, it's like, you just want to help people. Like, it's just,
Mm-hmm.
it's fun. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that's fun. I mean, so, who doesn't want to feel better? Like, I want everybody, dude, I want everybody's business and I want everybody's lesson book to be full. I want everybody's business to fucking just like blow up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, there's that old saying, you're never going to get, you're never going to get hate for somebody that's doing better than you. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
guys are
right.
doing better. Like, the guys that are successful and guys like, yeah, I mean, I just want to see everybody win, dude. Like, I don't care. Oh, because what you're doing doesn't impact me, and if it does, it only is going to make me better or it should.
Yeah, and if you've been through the struggle and you've had success, and you understand that it is the struggle that is obstacles the way. I think there was that one book, and you understand. Okay, this person's going through it. More respect to them, whether I agree with them or not. If they're taking the steps to go through that, I wish you the best, man.
Right. I mean, and that's what I was saying at the show. I was talking to people, and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, again, I get it. Like I was, again, I was the guy that it sometimes, the confrontation guy in my younger days and stuff like that, where, like I said, like, just calling out certain things, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But, it's not because I want to see anybody fail or I want to see, that's what I don't understand. Like when people call people out, and they're like, no, like I'm gonna bury that motherfucker. Like that's weird to me. Like that's just weird. Like, like
You got it. Yeah, and I think there's so much information now out there in every industry that has kind of subsided because you can't. Everyone knows that there's something else out there that they might not have heard of that they think they're going to go bury someone and they get it turned on them. Now they're going to
yeah.
look like a
But that's
dumbass.
the thing, like back, because back in the day, even when I would have these arguments with coaches or these conversation discussions back and forth, because there were plenty of people like, I'm gonna bury Mike. I'm like, all right, go ahead, bring it on, like whatever. But like it's just a weird flex to me. Like, I don't want to see you do bad, bro. Like, that's the thing. I just want to see everybody do better. I just want to see the golf
Mhm.
industry do better. That's the thing, right? So it's not a knock on you. I want to see everybody's teaching across the board get better. I want to see everybody's commentary on the golf channel get better, because
Yes.
I don't want people one of the most frustrating things as a golf professional, as a coach, somebody sees something on the golf channel, they repeat it to you or try to do it, and it's completely fucking wrong. Okay. And then I got to not only fix it, but then I got to spend 20 minutes explaining to you why that's wrong.
Yes. Got to
That's
unroll what was rolled up and then fix it. And then,
like,
yeah, it's brutal.
I just want to see the level of understanding and instruction and everything go up, and that's why with the forum, you know, having that, that's what we're trying to give you, man. We're trying to give you like access to this information that maybe you wouldn't have before, at a really good price, and sit there and soak it in, record it, take notes. We do offer recordings after the editing and stuff like that on the website and everything else. And it's like, we just want to push, it's not about pushing one particular school of thought over another. We just want to push the industry to do better.
I think it's
That's
an
what it is.
intro. It's for a lot of people, it's an introduction to information that they might have heard of, but don't have readily are able to readily access it. So I
Exactly.
think
And
you
that's
guys do a
it.
great job with that. That's
Right.
that's the
And
most
that's it.
enjoyable part. Outside of you getting up and telling people to shut the fuck up, that's
Yeah. And
the one.
I'm telling
What?
you, I'm waiting for one day to walk into open forum and then to have like one of those like Super Bowl boxes and shit where people are just picking numbers and whatever else about like what's going to come out of my mouth. That's going to be like the next day. Like, I'm just waiting for that. Somebody's
We
going to
might have
watch
to
this.
do that.
Watch see now I said that, right? Because now I'm an idiot. Because now I said that, and somebody next year at the open, oh, look, see Mike, look.
Where's I'll obviously have all your links and stuff in the summary, but tell everyone where they can find you, follow you, reach out to you.
So yeah, so Instagram, you can follow me. It's at FLIDES. That's same with TikTok, even though I don't really post a ton on there. I also have my Spartan Sports and Wellness page. So on Facebook and on Instagram. On Instagram, it's at SSWLLC. Although I do lax a little bit with that. So I mean, I'd say probably follow both accounts because I'm not always good at cross posting. I got to get better at it. Facebook too. You can find me. I don't know. Again, all my stuff is public. Like, I don't have anything. Like, I'm not like, oh, you got to request me or whatever. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, the information's there. I'm more than happy to help people, man. I'm more than happy to jump on calls. That's what I try to do. I mean, and even for people not just with the wellness stuff, but also if they want to also do the business side of that, or they want to help people and stuff like that. Like, I also help them with that too. We got a team that's great, that will help with training and kind of all that stuff. If that's something you want to do, if you decide you want to do that as a side hustle, or you decide you want to add, whatever, I try to help people, like I said, as much as possible. I'm even on Telegram, but I don't really, again, I use that more for the team stuff than anything else. But all my links are usually the same. It's usually at MFMLIDES. I kind of try to keep it as consistent as possible. But I would say Facebook and Instagram are probably the two mainstays. Like I said, TikTok, I just started not too
Hmm.
long ago. So I'm still learning the ins and outs of it, I guess. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, it's
but
constantly changing. You can never keep up with it.
I know. Then everybody's like, "Are you on Threads?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Are you on X?" And I'm like, "No." And then they're like, "Well, you're on Snapchat." And I'm like, "No." Like, I'm like, there's only a certain amount of time that I kind of, feel like I could do. It kind of gets overloaded. And I do try to post daily. I didn't at the show, definitely, but I do try to post, daily, either about the water or about the supplements or about stuff or anything else that I kind of find. Sometimes it might even just be a Chevy truck you find on there or something like that. I don't know,
Hmm.
like, but pretty much whatever kind of tickles you know, my ADD at some point or whatever, I kind of post, I do have to watch it though. It was weird. I got put in like, I got put in Instagram jail. Like, my traffic on Instagram is like severely limited. I got put on Instagram jail for a Chevy commercial. It was so
Wow.
weird. Yeah, there was so I drive a, like, I drive a 99 Chevy Silverado, right? Like, I don't drive anything. It's like, right. There was a Chevy commercial where it was like, I think it was like 2 years ago, there was like a tornado, and you see this red Chevy or maroon Chevy truck. It gets whipped up by the tornado, gets on its side, then gets back on, and the guy was still in it and he drove off.
Hmm.
Right. So it was like on the news. It was like a news clip or something like that, right? Of this Chevy truck that was in a tornado. The guy fucking was in there and then drove off. Like, it's crazy, right? So I had posted it and I was like, man, I go, how great is this? Like Chevy, like a rock, blah, blah, blah. Even a tornado can't, whatever. It was literally the news clip. And Instagram was like, Instagram was like flagged, like that's inciting violence. I'm like, what inciting what? I'm like, it's a fucking like news clip. I was like, it's a Chevy thing. I was like, what do you mean? It's like, what did I incite? It's a tornado, like what might be sensitive. I was like, really? So like, I can't go live on my Instagram page until like May 25th or some shit like that.
The Instagram, Facebook killed the podcast growth. I got in the first year I got on there, I got to 1,000 followers. It was nothing
Right,
huge. I mean, and then I posted a picture of my 4-year-old niece on my lap with a
right.
headset on, and they shut it down and said I shared illicit child photography. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right. And
And
that's
I
and
mean, I
that's
had
the
to
thing. Like,
follow the county sheriff's a big golfer. I mean, we're buddies. Um, God damn it. So I called him, and so I had to file with the cyber crimes unit and FBI,
jeez.
and I had to call an attorney friend of mine, and he said, "Let me look into it," and got back to me and said, you did that just to protect your ass in case they come back in 2 years and say, what was this?" But he called me about a month later and said, "Look what I found." And evidently, Facebook had a bunch of complaints about um, child trafficking. So
Yeah.
they must have, he said, "We think they did an AI scrub because they
Yeah,
found
that's
out a lot of grandmas and parents were saying, 'Hey, all we did was post twice a year, Christmas and
right.
birthdays, our kids, and our page is gone
Right.
for the
And
same
that's
reason.'"
well, and that was the thing. And I have like on my main Instagram account, like on my main Instagram account, on my MFMLIDS account, I have like 14,000 plus followers or some shit like that, right? But yet, like, you'll see like my tracking thing would be like, oh, your video got like 50 views, or
Mm-hmm.
you got
Shadow
10
ban.
likes, or you got, and I'm like, man, you guys are really seriously like, like you're
Well, it's like the
really
Facebook page. The Facebook page has 30 followers. I'm like, I've had 166 guests on. You're telling me 30 people know about the podcast? Come on.
right. Exactly. Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Well, and
I
that's
only have it to have it in case they take the handcuffs off, then it'll be there.
right. And that's the thing. And that's what I'm hoping for. But it's like so funny, man. Like, I was like, what did I share? Because in my head, I'm like, what did I share? It's like, what did I share? Because because even though I hunt and stuff like that, like, I'm not a guy, like, I don't put, you know, like, I don't put deer pictures up, or I
Mm-hmm.
don't care. Like, it's not like, so like I don't do that, right? And I'm pretty private. Like, I don't really put a lot of posting stuff, like personal stuff, like, you know what I mean? So like, I mean, the only personal stuff is like, okay, yeah, maybe my truck, or my John Deere tractor or some shit like that. Like, it's nothing, it's like, so that's why I'm like sitting there. I'm like, I can't go live till like May 25th. I'm like, really?
Mm.
I'm like, man, y'all just like, I'm like, y'all Ford people or Dodge? Like, what's the problem? Like, you just pissed into Chevy? Like, I don't understand. Like, what's the, you know, like, what's the issue? But yeah, it was so weird, man. So like my traffic on that's way down, but still. But honestly, I mean, jump on there, follow it. Like I said, any information, like, give me a shout. You can message me anytime. I mean, even on my on a lot of the posts, I even have my cell phone. You can text me. I mean, I don't, I'm pretty kind of easy with that stuff. Like, just hit me up. I'm happy to help. But it's fun. Like I said, it's fun helping people, whether it's in the golf space or whether it's in the wellness space. It's just fun, helping people, seeing people hit the ball better, seeing people feel better. It's like, it's just awesome.
You're
So
doing good work. Keep it up.
I try.
Thank you for coming on. Hang on a minute, everybody. Thanks for checking us out again. We'll see you next time.
That's fine.